Man, shut up.
Alright, okay, hold on. I gotta get the intro out of the way. You freaking insulting the bot. Welcome to the Peak of Trash podcast, where we figure out if something is peak or belongs in the garbage. We are your hosts, LGCrusader,
And I am Kakky.
and I know it's been a long while since we've done our since we've ever produced anything on this channel. Since I think the last time we produced was back in like March, right?
I don't know what
March-ish.
you're talking about. It feels like just yesterday.
It feels like just yesterday, sure, bud.
Been a
Right
long
now,
wow.
it's been a long while, yeah. And like you know what? We started the year with the podcast. Now we end the year with the podcast. We started with something trash, aka Ruby, Volume One
Yeah.
in the trailers, unfortunately. And now, in a funny kind of roundabout way, because I remember. Do you remember the last thing you said? Before we end. Well, not the last thing. Not exactly the last thing you said before the podcast, but when I left to go to the restroom, what did you talk about the entire time?
One Piece.
And that's the subject of today's episode.
There we
Netflix's One
go.
Piece. Okay.
We're
That-
late to the party, but we don't care.
I mean, it's like 2 month. It's like a 2 month period. It's not that big of a deal. Hopefully.
Season 2 is greenlit, so
Oh
yeah.
yeah, a lot of good things are happening. We have Netflix One Piece season 2 is greenlit for production, and also the entire Romance Dawn arc is going to be reanimated by a new animation studio. That's also going to be produced by Netflix too. That's going to be
Glorious
crazy.
Wit Studio. Thank goodness it's not Mappa, because that's another conversation for another time.
That dude, I
Mappa no good.
can't imagine being a Mappa employee right now, man. I
Nope.
feel so bad for them. Okay, so but besides that, let's kind of introduce just the One Piece as a series. And uh One Piece follows the story of Monkey D. Luffy and his uh uh crew of pirates as he goes on a journey to attain the One Piece. You know,
Mhm.
is that a fair summary right there?
That is as fair and as simple as it can get.
Okay. And I will say, I think this is a very interesting um, podcast episode because our experience with One Piece is radically different. Radically different. Uh,
Mhm.
so I want to ask, Kaki, what is your experience with One Piece?
Ooh, where do I even begin? Well, as you can see, my profile pic is spoiler Luffy Gear 5, yeah. Um One Piece as a series has, I'd say, influenced me the most out of any show or media I've grown up with in my life. It has been with me through s- so much that I feel like I'd be a completely different person without it. It was, as I fairly mentioned in the last episode, I dabbled in anime, and with Ruby being anime go big scythe, that was the beginning where, started with Fairy Tale, all that, Naruto, Bleach, but One Piece hooked me in. It's just everything I want. It's the adventure, it's the fights, it's the characters, it's the drama. It has everything that you could ever ask for in a show. And yeah, just growing up with it my whole life. It's crazy to say that. And we're still going on 1,000 episodes. So yeah, and has influenced my art and my story writing as well. And Oda is a god. Don't even have to sugarcoat that. He's a god. And no, I look up to the series. It's taught me very valuable lessons.
I'm really glad that that One Piece is that show for you that influenced you so much in your life. And I,
Mm.
I'm explaining kind of more of my experience. I kind of come from it from more casual fan setting. Uh, I didn't really grow up watching One Piece that much. I was more into watching at the time I watched a lot of Ruby and I watched a lot of Fairy Tail, and those were like the main shows I watched as a kid. So when One Piece came around, um, I initially got it. I initially watched all the way up to the finishing up the Romance Dawn. No, not the Romance Dawn. I think up to at least up to Arlong Park's arc, which is actually good because for the adaptation, that's how long it stretches for. So at the very least, at least coming into the Netflix One Piece adaptation, I had an idea. I had an idea of how the adaptation may go of what I already know,
Mhm,
and um, while One Piece may not exactly be something that's a big part of my life, I can understand why it's so influential. I mean, it's been around since the 90s. Like it ran for a strong 20 years and it's still going strong to this day and creating like nearly two generations of fans here that
mhm.
grew up watching One Piece. And I'm not going to deny the cultural impact that One Piece created both in Japan and the international seas and whatnot. So yeah, One Piece, specifically the Netflix One Piece adaptations had a lot writing on it. So I want to ask, how did you feel when the Netflix adaptation was announced? When you heard the news, like, oh, Netflix is trying to do their adaptation of One Piece.
My reaction went something like, "Oh shit," because of course it's of course I'm gonna be hyped as a big One Piece fan. It's
hmm
impossible not to be hyped for anything One Piece news related. But as you know, with Netflix's track record with the recent live actions, Death
hmm
Note,
Uh,
Cowboy Bebop,
oh,
it
oh.
was I was very concerned
Mhm,
because this could go either or, right?
mhm,
A lot of people don't want to sit through 1,000 episodes. That's totally understandable. And if you're one of those people who bugs people to watch 1,000 episodes, you shut up. It's not for everybody.
mhm.
But this
Jack-
was going to be, yeah. But this was going to be some people's first interaction with One Piece.
Mhm.
For example, the twins, of course,
Oh, yeah.
their mother wanted to get into One Piece.
Hmm,
And they decided to start with the live action. And I'm so glad that what we got wasn't anything like Cowboy, wasn't anything like Death Note.
mhm,
It was satisfying. It was very satisfying to watch. And building up, I was like, okay, this is looking good. This is looking good. But I never got my hopes up until the finished product was out. And I'm glad to say that I'm satisfied. I love it.
mm. Okay, I will. Okay, I I I'm glad that it went as well as it did because I remember at least my perspective when the Netflix One Piece live action adaptation initially got announced. I remember physically rolling my eyes about it. I'm like, oh, fucking Netflix is really trying to adapt another anime and One Piece of all series. They're gonna fuck this up real bad.
They got
And
your
I
boy
saw,
Yu Yu Hakusho coming up though.
oh no, it came out. It came out today, I think.
It's out?
It's out now, and
No, it's not.
no, I'm serious. Okay, leading up to the podcast today, I was watching the One Piece live action adaptation on Netflix, and then on the homepage, Yu Yu Hakusho is there, and I'm scared for my life because I don't know how that's gonna go, and I I think I'll probably just put it on the back burner for now. I don't want to see Yu Yu Hakusho get ruined right now. So, but that's
We'll
besides the
save that
point.
for another episode.
Well, another episode. But I remember, I remember I was a bit more of a negative Nancy about it. If I'm being completely honest, like I was like, this is not gonna work. They're gonna fail. And I remember, we were at work when we still worked together, at our workplace. You would tell me news about like, oh yeah, like oh they're already doing test screenings and stuff, and I looked up the test screening score and I heard at the time like it was bad, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't think this is gonna do well because there's already test screening results that came out and people don't like it. And then he's like, no, but Ichiro Oda is part of it. He's part of the huge creative process. And then you're like, no, it can't be. And I'm like, yeah.
Okay.
And no, like the entire time, okay, when you said like you were trying to keep your expectations tame, I don't know if that was that tame because you were still pretty hopeful about it. So I'm just coming in like, yeah, dude. I don't just like, just expect trash. That's all I can say. Hey, it's
You were
sometimes.
there to help me and keep it from getting overhyped. I will admit there was copium because Oda was working on it.
And yeah, and then that was also a big crux of the conversation because they compared to past adaptations from Netflix with Death Note and Cowboy Bebop. Eiichiro Oda was heavily involved in the project, and that kind of gave a lot of people some in a way some hope. And now, and in hindsight, now rightfully so, because I don't know what they did. I don't know what Ichiro Sensei did to like 180 the product from the test screenings from bad to good now. But whatever you fucking did, peak fiction, peak writing right there.
Yep.
I'm already revealing my score too early, but all right, that's besides the point. So yeah, I remember, but like outside of that, I remember, but outside of our own perspectives and expectations going in, I will say the general vibe of the situation of Netflix adapting One Piece, it was tense. Like people were really being like super critical from the casting. A lot of people were like really judgmental about the casting,
Mm.
the clothing and character design. And yeah, I remember like a lot like they were like high key judging the actors, and I don't mind, and I don't like, and I can understand why. This is their favorite show getting adapted and stuff. At the same time, I think some people went a little too far with
No,
like
I
some of the
definitely.
criticism.
It's if I can get my 2 cents about that, it was absolutely ridiculous.
Hmm.
Sometimes, and I don't speak for all One Piece fans, some of the quote unquote fans that are too hardcore just it sets a bad rep. Like I
Hmm.
remember people being pissed because Luffy wasn't wearing sandals. He had like
Oh,
straight shoes. And I'm like, are you serious?
I had the
Oh my
I remember I
god.
sent you the freaking text about that where there was like a YouTube like post about it, and people are complaining about how he's wearing his shoes. And I'm like, yeah, but like from a practical standpoint, like they need to film safely, and if you're wearing open-toed sandals while you're moving, that's not a great idea. While doing crazy fight
Exactly.
scenes, it's not going to be very good.
And then there was the really, really cringe fans who were complaining about Nami's casting, Emily, which
Oh,
I'll get to
Emily
that.
Rose.
I'll say now she was my favorite performance in the
Hmm,
entire show.
definitely, yeah.
But it was just the corny fans talking about, oh, her bust size isn't big enough for Nami. And I'm like, come on, dude.
And then you have
Go
those,
outside, touch
and then you have
grass.
and you have those fans who are like, "Oh my god, why did they cast Usopp the way they did?" And that's just a very coded way of saying,
No.
i- i- a very coded way of saying, why is he black?
Yeah.
And
And
I'm
like,
like,
and there was when people were talking about, oh, why aren't they all Japanese? Yada, yada, yada. Oda himself said, or shoot, jump the mountains. Oda himself
mhm,
revealed what nationality the Straw Hats are or would be in our world. Luffy
mhm,
Brazilian, Zoro Japanese, which fits. Sanji French, Nami, I believe Swedish, and Usopp African.
mhm.
So the casting fits. And it's just the little nitpicks like that where I'm like, dude, just enjoy it. Just
Yeah.
enjoy it. Please.
But that goes to show, like, Netflix One Piece was quite literally fighting an uphill battle because of their terrible streak when it comes to anime adaptations with Netflix's Death Note and Cowboy Bebop. So, especially since like Cowboy Bebop, the actress who plays Faye Valentine just going out of their way to like antagonize fans didn't help their case.
Yeah. No.
And then you have like news about the uh, Cowboy Bebop author just watching the first 15 minutes of the first episode and then leaving because he's like, yeah, no, like I enjoyed the first 15 minutes, but everything else was like I didn't like it that much. So they had a lot. Yeah, they had and reasonably so. A lot of people were very critical, but we are glad to say that the end product is speaks for itself. It is amazing.
Yep. Hmm.
And that kind of leads to another question, since it's rare to see, no, extremely rare to see a really good anime live action adaptation. And I think this Netflix's One Piece is like the more like mainstream big the success story of live action adaptations. So I guess my question to you, since you are you are the number one, I like to call you the number one Piece fan. What
Damn straight.
makes a good adaptation, and does Netflix's One Piece achieve that?
Excellent question. I believe the source of a good adaptation is keeping the theme and just the spirit
Hmm.
of the original product. We don't have to have anything cookie cutter exactly the same because, I mean, why not just watch the OG material if it's just a cookie cutter? No, it's its own adaptation in itself, but it keeps the source material. It keeps the characters consistent, keeps the story relatively consistent, and it doesn't stray too far from the path. So you're like, well, I'm not even watching One Piece anymore. This is its own thing. Self inserts. But um, does One Piece Netflix do it right? I'd say yes, it does it exceptionally well. There were
Hmm.
some differences that caught me off guard when watching,
Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
it still felt like I was watching One Piece. And that's all that really matters, in my opinion. It still got me hyped to relive these moments. Like Baratie, even though a lot of stuff was cut from Baratie.
Oh yeah,
Arlong's
definitely.
arc
Yeah.
was peak. Syrup Village was an interesting twist. But no, it felt like One Piece. And even had me saying moments like, oh, I know that. Or, oh, this is new. But I like what they're doing with it.
Hmm.
But of course, it's not perfect. There's some stuff that I wish they could have kept,
Hmm.
but it doesn't deteriorate from the overall experience I had. So, yes, I'd say they did it right.
I see. I see. I will say, for the most part, if I would have to agree with, I would definitely agree with your definition of what makes a good adaptation, and that is it needs to keep the spirit of what the adaptation is, but I also want the original source material, but I also want to add, along with that, and or they improve on the original
Mhm,
story. And I say that because there have been rare cases of the adaptation being better than the original. And I say that for, let's say, I think my main example I use is The Boys,
mhm,
Amazon's The Boys, in my opinion, is leagues better than the original Boys comic. And then
mhm,
I've talked about the Boys comic with you, and how extremely fucking edgy and over the top it was. And
mm,
it does, and then but outside of the violence and gore and nudity, like, there wasn't much substance involved for me. It's just it just seemed like superhero hate porn. But I'm
yeah.
glad what the adaptation did. It added more layers to the show with like 3D, not depth, characters with a lot of depth. They have their own motivation. They have their own like fears and goals and whatnot, and then they have different characters that represent an aspect of society that they want to speak about. And I'm like, which I think has there's more, which gives it more to like talk about than just the comic version. So I think that's also what I also want to keep in mind is, and it does if an not only does an adaptation need to like hold the spirit of the original source, and or it needs to be better than the original. And like I said, I'm only coming in as a One Piece casual fan, and I watched enough of it to be able to watch the Netflix version. And I think overall it did really good. There were some story my own some of my own some of my own. I had some gripes with some of the narrative, but I'll get more into it as we go on, which we will start now with episode 1,
Here
Romance
we go.
Dawn.
Romance Dawn.
So we follow Romance Dawn. We follow the introduction of Monkey D. Luffy. He explained he expresses his goal that he wants to become the king of the to attain the One Piece and become king of the pirates. The One Piece is a is a treasure held by Gold Roger, was before his death. He told everyone where the One Piece was hidden in the Grand Line, and his treasure is there for any brave adventurer who wants to fight and go get it. And that card created a whole new era of pirates.
Mhm.
And throughout that story, he like the original, he kind of like stows away accidentally onto Captain Alvida's ship, where he meets Kobe for the first time. They had their Captain Alvida and Luffy have their little battle, and that's when after the little battle, both him and Kobe make their way to Shell's Town to hopefully get the map to the Grand Line. While that's happening, we also get the introduction of both Nami and Zoro, and they all are also starting to make their way towards Shellstown, and kind of in a way fate kind of bringing them together as a group.
Mhm.
And then I know I'm keeping this really short. I'm only saying this because I'm kind of trying to think more of an adaptation. Like we're kind of going more of a comparison adaptation kind of thing. But in the end, the group bonds. The group comes together, fights Axe Hand Morgan, takes the map to the Grand Line, and successfully became criminals. Alrighty. So, okay, how do you feel about this episode? It being the first episode, it has a lot to live up to, and do you think that it lives up to
Sure
the
does.
starting expectations? Yeah.
Um, First off, the opening scene. Excellent way to start with the whole fame power. It just feels so nostalgic.
It's like you're watching the
And
opening.
it felt like so real. And um just seeing while Roger is giving his speech, you see like nitpicks of characters that will appear later in the series and Easter eggs. Like you see a young Mihawk, you see a young
Mm.
Shanks. Sometimes you can see like wanted posters of characters like from Dressrosa, like Cavendish I saw, which got me hype. And just seeing right after his speech, everybody just rush out, run to get this treasure. It felt so cool. And going on to the man, the myth, the legend, Monkey D. Luffy. Inaki, fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. I watched interviews where he talked about his process of getting into character for Luffy and how Oda himself laughed at Inaki's performance. And hearing that Oda himself approved of this role and seeing him, just off the bat when he's on the little boat and he goes, I'm going to be king of the pirates. I'm like, yep, that's Luffy. Mhm. And with Luffy, I say Luffy out of anybody in this class is going to be the hardest to portray because it's kind of hard to have this line and switch between this goofy, crazy nutball who's so bent on this adventure in this dream and then to transfer it into these serious moments where I brought that up
Yes.
where before the show came out, I'm like, I wonder how they're going to do the more serious moments, like for example,
Oh
in
yeah.
Arlong Park. And just this first episode and seeing his cheerfulness and his interactions with Kobe, who amazing actor as well.
Mhm.
It was fun to watch.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. No, Iñaki. I feel like I'll be honest. I just feel like Iñaki is just embodying Luffy 24/7, and that's kind of crazy in my opinion. And he really captures that infectious positivity that Luffy is known for, and you just can't help but smile when you see him, and it kind of lights your heart a little bit. You're like, yeah, that's it. Like that's him right there. And I feel like for any other actor, it's so easy to fall into the pit trap of like overacting or going
Mhm.
way too far with the energy. And I feel like I'll say like in this episode he does a really good job at like playing his character, and also like he is also a really blunt Luffy being a very blunt person as well. He's like when he speaks his mind, and then he speaks his mind truly. Like there was like I think it was like a scene where he just like like slaps Kobe, don't lie to me. Tell me what you want to say.
Like Kobe's his own man.
Kobe's
Seller
so
Kobe.
so, but like yeah, and then if we're gonna talk about kind of like going a little bit later in the later in the series and how he handles like like they give him some new elements that you don't typically see Luffy be portrayed in. It's interesting how Iñaki portrays it, and I think he does in a really good job. And I'm so and I think this is like a lightning in a bottle performance. You can't get it from anyone else. It can only work with Iñaki
Exactly.
Godoy. And the crazy part, I think I remember I mentioned there was interviews about Iñaki where when he was going into the audition, he was the only actor who made the choice to actively smile throughout the audition. So because of that, that made
Yep.
him really stand out compared to all the actors
Mhm.
that were already there for the audition. So that shows how much he knows about like Luffy as a character. Okay, and Zoro, played by McKenyu.
Everybody was thirsting.
Oh, I fucking was, dude.
God, I
Fucking
said,
dude,
oh,
he got
hello.
chess game for day. I'm like, "Whew."
Mhm.
Okay, so what? How would you say is McKenyu's portrayal of Zoro in here? Because I heard some good things and also some bad things about it. But I want to get your input on that.
From the first interaction, this first scene, which I like the little node to the manga. And like you said, improving on the source material. When Zoro's first introduced and in the later arc for Barbecue Works, Alabasta area, all that,
Mhm.
he mentions, oh, Barbecue Works, I fought an agent named Mr. Seven, but we never see that in the manga. So the
Oh
fact that
yeah.
this is the first thing we see in the anime was so hype because we're like, this is something we've never seen before.
And he got that Baroque's pirate, they're called the Baroque pirates, right? I'm sorry, I don't know. My lack of knowledge of One Piece is showing, but they're called the
Baroque Works or
Baroque
barbecue. I
works.
used to call them barbecue works.
Barbecue works. Yeah, the Baroque works fucking axed just to establish his like Zoro's badassness. And I'll be honest, I forget that One Piece can get kind of violent and gory at some point. So
Yup.
like when that samurai style
Mm.
shot happened, and you just see the Seven Pirate just like fucking his torso just sliding off his legs. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
oh.
I had the same reaction. I'm like, okay, they're probably just gonna send some shit. Holy shit!
I mean, it is a TV-14 product, so they can get away with some violence.
That was and as for Zoro's fighting himself, this isn't a stunt man, right? This is McKenna doing
This
this
is
himself.
McKenna doing most of the stunt work. Yes,
Most of the stunt.
it's crazy. I'll be honest. I think I like most of the Straw Hats fight scenes, except for Luffy. But I'll get more into that
Mhm.
a little later once we get through the characters. Yeah. So what do you think about Zoro? Zoro, like the characterization of Zoro in this series compared to the original.
I see where some people could have like some iffiness about it because, of course, in the OG, Zoro is this old big bad pirate hunter who never, smiles or just is total serious. But East Blue is, I believe, where we see Zoro smile and show like a bit of charisma the most out of any of the arcs in One Piece. You'll see in the later arcs, he's more toned and more stoic, since the defeat with Mihawk and training, it's kind of hard at him. And I kind of wish, you know, as we went through East Blue, that we got to see more of that side of Zoro. Don't get me wrong, McKenya's performance was amazing.
Mhm,
I'm not saying anything else, but it was just a little flair to like even out his his chemistry with Luffy, which is shown in the live action, but I think it is done better in the manga.
mhm, mhm.
That's my little nitpick.
I
Not bad,
see.
but
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I think I'm just going kind of my own. Again, I'm going in my own limited viewpoint of original One Piece because I only watched up to the Arlong Park, up to all the way up to Arlong Park, and his characterization is interesting for the most part because he's like he has it's how do I say it, like I Zoro in OG has this kind of like badass but like kind of like how do I say it? Badass but like kind of party vibe, I guess that's the way to say it. Like
I can
he's
see where you're getting at.
he but I would say like here in McKinney he's a lot more like the stoic cool guy type, which I don't get that characterization much in from the original. So I think this is a new, like the more different take, the slightly different take from him, where he's more like the cool sexy guy now. So I'm like, hey, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. McKenna being sexy. And also,
Yes, please.
Like kind of introducing his other roles. He played Okuyasu in the live action JoJo movie in Japan.
Oh,
I think I remember.
right?
Oh yeah, you didn't know
No
he played Okuyasu, yeah, in the live
no.
action JoJo.
Oh, the
It's
contrast. That's funny.
like it
He
is
does that show he has rage.
yeah. So but I'd say overall I'm satisfied with his performance in the first episode. I think he did really
Mhm.
well. And Emily Rudd as Nami.
Ooh,
I think she played Nami to a T.
perfectly, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. Perfectly. Like I said, she was my a- absolute favorite performance in the entire show. It's I won't get on everything yet because it really comes together and rewards you Arlong Park near the end of the episodes where her performance really shines. But I like how, as someone who knows, or like everybody probably knows, um, eventually Nami is she has her own secret intentions. She has her own ambitions. She seems very separate from everybody who joins the crew when you really look at it.
Mm-hmm.
From seeing Sanji and Usopp and Zoro and Luffy interact, she's the outcast, but it's for a reason. And it's good to see that. And at the same time, bits of her edging between I like these guys. I like Luffy. I like Zoro. I like interacting with these people. They feel like friends, but at the same time, I don't want to get too attached.
Mm-hmm.
And you can feel that through how she characterizes Nami. Like when they're when they're in Showstown and they're pull up the disguise and try to rob the safe. I love how Luffy is just so goofy and Nami sometimes is just tired of his shit already.
Yeah, and then he yeah like they play off each other very well. I think that's good because like when you have like the dynamic currently at the time with just Luffy, Nami, and Zoro, you have Nami and Zoro kind of being the straight man to Luffy, who's like who's playing a lot more of the high energy comedic role in the dynamic. So you have basically Nami and Zoro kind of like bring him down back to earth on when he goes a little too crazy, a little too far. So yeah, I think that yeah, not just from the first episode, Emily Rudd as Nami does a really good job and a really good job at playing her, and the overall story, also don't want to forget our boy Kobe,
Mhm,
played by let me see his name, hold on, Kobe played by Morgan Davies.
mhm.
He he's a little bit older. Like his character's just slightly a little bit older compared to how he's animated in the original. But I just want to see what your take from Kobe is. I'll be honest, I don't know anything about Kobe. Like I know he's like doing his training his own thing in the Marines later in the series, but I never saw that because I don't think it's ever mentioned
Mhm,
a lot during the Romance Dawn arc, which is one of the major changes that they did was they made Kobe a much more prevalent character
mhm.
throughout this iteration, throughout this adaptation. So I'm curious how, yeah, I'm curious from your perspective how accurate or like how well handled was Kobe's increased role in the story done.
So Kobe, sorry, still sick. I'm good. Still got a cough. Cool. So Kobe, I noticed off the bat, oh wow, he's a lot older than I expected. And I was curious because I thought, okay, they're probably just gonna keep for like 1 or 2 episodes because in the manga, that's only when you see him once Luffy, Zoro say goodbye to him
Just
at
fucking dips.
Showstown. That's it. And I kind of wish they kept the scene where Kobe salutes them going off because that was a really nice scene, but it's okay. But when they kept going with Kobe's stories, I was like, this is interesting because, again, it has to do with Garp being thrown into the story and being so prevalent early
Um,
on.
dun dun dun. Another adaptation change.
Yes,
Monkey D. Garp is that his name?
Monkey D. Garp. Where should we get into it now or should we wait until Garp is introduced?
Let's get into it now, just so we can
Yeah,
get that out of
so
the way.
because this
So,
is a big thing
the,
I wanted to talk about.
one of the major changes of the adaptation.
So, as you know, OG um, with Helmeppo and Kobe joining the Marines after Shellstown, they are taken under Garp. And in the OG, we don't see Kobe, Helmeppo, or Garp until end of Ennie's Lobby, which is a couple hundred episodes.
Mhm,
But when we come back to Kobe after Ennie's Lobby, he's gotten more mature, he's gotten stronger, he's had an insane glow up.
mhm,
And I think it was nice to see just how Kobe got this development and what Garp saw in Kobe and how Garp brought that out of him. Where
mhm,
for the live action adaptation, Garp is pretty reckless. He's so bent on catching Luffy, where in the OG, it didn't really feel like that. Garp wasn't whole hell bent on fighting Luffy. That wasn't his number one priority. Which I'm not sure how to feel about that change because I feel like it had more impact in Ennie's Lobby, where we haven't kept up with these characters in a while. And then the big reveal that, oh, spoiler, Garp is Luffy's granddad.
mhm.
It's it shocked the fuck out of me. But to have it this early felt weird. I don't know how to explain it. It's it, I can't say more until we get to the last episode with the specific scene I want to talk about with Garp.
I think
But
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, but
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. I remember watching it. I was like, "Who's Garp?" Because, like I said, I've only watched up to all the way up to Arlong Park. So there was never a mention of like Luffy's grandpa Garp or anything like that. And then it's interesting how and I think from what I heard, the inclusion of Garp this early on in the story was because of the writers that they wanted to incorporate him into the story early. And I remember allegedly Eiichiro wasn't exactly down for Garp being introduced so early.
really,
That's what I heard. Allegedly, allegedly. Don't
allegedly.
take my word as
Mhm,
gospel. But I think I remember it was one of the changes they wanted to do, and I think that's only because how Garp came in so late comparison into the series when they felt like he should have been there early to explain a lot of the things he saw, and I guess that's kind of part of the reason why they did it, along with they wanted to create a kind of like a side, like not a side story plot line, but like a B plot line where
mhm,
while following the Straw Hat crew, you also follow Kobe and Garp and the Marines and their story, so you can see. I think part of it's also it has some of its faults, but I do like that dynamic where we get to see both the piracy side of the world, but also the marine side of the world, and it
mhm,
helps build the world of One Piece and how the world operates. And I think so Kobe's kind of the window to how the Marines operate and kind of some of the moral gray area that the Marines do and how corrupt they can be in certain situations. And I don't mind the change. I don't mind. I feel, and that's only because the actor for Garp, Vincent Reagan. I like I said, I don't know much about his characterization in in the anime or manga, but I personally enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Oh no, yeah, it was done very well.
I feel like every time he's on screen, he commanded presence, and he made like every scene you're in, he made you want to keep watching his scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And then when like there, I heard there's like some criticism regarding like, oh, he's not boisterous enough. But at the same time, I also point out there are some scenes where past his his professionalism with his military, with the Marines and his crew, you see his sparks of like insanity, Luffy, Monkey D. Luffy, the
Mm-hmm.
Monkey D. family's insanity, where
Yep.
where you see him like laughing, like.
He's just laughing his ass off. Yeah.
So like that's it. I personally enjoyed Garp, and I think his introduction was something that was interesting and caught me off guard as a casual fan. So that kind of made me want to watch more. I'm like, who the hell is Garp? So, what would you say are the positives and negatives of the first episode?
Sorry. Positives, I'd say just the overall character introductions. It's always the first interaction where you're either gonna make or bring in people or completely lose them. And I would say successfully, Inaki, Emily, Kinyu, everybody, they dragged me into the story of One Piece, and it felt like I was watching it all over again.
And that's
Um,
what matters the most. It makes you feel
exactly.
like you're being pulled in for an amazing adventure.
Mhm. As for the negatives, I can't really put my hand on any negatives. I wouldn't call the whole Garp Kobe thing a negative, but it's just it felt weird. It felt like I would have liked to see it cook like it did in the manga. So it's this big reveal in Eddie's lobby.
Let it
But
cook. Let
let it
it
cook.
cook.
But a good side of that was seeing Kobe and Helmeppo, who did not fucking like each other at all at the beginning. Just it shows how they
Oh,
come
freaking
together and become
Helmeppo
like
with the
best buds.
Helmeppo with the sword.
That scene was funny.
Yes. All right, no, I'm not. I'm not. If anyone when I say Helmeppo with the sword in the first episode, you guys know what I mean. But
Yep.
yeah, no, I can understand as like someone who is a fan, who's been a fan of One Piece for a long time. This change being off-putting. It's a little off-putting for you, I guess, in a way.
I wouldn't say but he didn't like turn me off from the show completely, but I'm like, I'll let this cook.
You let this
I
go.
want to see where this goes.
I see. I see. I I think for me, yeah, I most of my positives are what you already said. I think for me, as just I think just as a casual fan, I think the negatives. I think one of them was kind of the CGI a little bit, especially for
Mm,
Luffy's rubber stretching. At it, if when I say out of all, I like all the Straw Hats fights except for Luffy's. Only because it's so ingrained in his powers, and having his stretching ability doesn't exactly correlate well in live action.
mhm,
And then I get it, like they did the best they can, and it's gonna look weird, but a lot of the fights, like for example, like McKenyu's fights as Zoro, like because he's a swordsman, you can see a lot more intricate fights and movements and smooth patterns and smooth movement involved in his fights. While for Inyaki's fight scenes as Luffy, outside of his stretching ability, his movements are really stiff and it really uses a lot of wire work, which I am a little bit iffy on. I'm not really a big fan of his fights.
mhm. Okay.
But I think outside of that one negative, like episode 1 did a really good job at hooking me into the series. And I remember when they first came out, I'm like, I'm gonna check it out like one episode and see how I feel. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. I ended
Got him.
up binge I ended up binge watching like a bunch of episodes like leading up to class. I'm like, I gotta watch One Piece, man. All right. So but overall, overall, this is it's a pretty good start. It's a really good start of the really good start of first episode for the series. Alrighty, and
Like,
then
I agree. I need
and
my water,
then
bro.
oh no, you're good, you're good. And then we're gonna jump straight into episode 2 now, where it kind of picks up immediately after the theft of the map to the Grand Line. And what happens in this episode is they manage to open the safe, and they kind of elaborate more about the world of One Piece regarding each. They talk about the East Blue, West Blue, North Blue, South Blue, and then it's how the world is divided by the red line, and then you have that little strip of land called the Grand Line. That's where all the crazy stuff happens. And then while that happens, they get hunted down. They get hunted down by Boom, the well, fuck. Why can't I remember his name for some reason?
Buggy
Buggy the Clown.
the
There you go.
Clown. Put some respect in his name.
I was okay. I'll be honest. I never liked Buggy in the original, so I think I'll be honest. I think I like him here a lot more because he felt a little more intimidating
Mhm.
personally. But that's besides the point. So they get captured by Buggy the Clown, and we kind of and that's where for this episode it delves a lot into what was it Luffy's backstory, and we get to see the introduction of Shanks and his crew. And then while that happens, they manage to break out of captivity and they fight. It's a pretty simple episode. They break out of captivity. They fight Buggy the Clown, beat him, and then they take the Grand Line map back and continue on to their journey. And it's a pretty short episode. It's a pretty like not short episode, but like a pretty short synopsis of the episode. So, how do you feel about this episode?
Shit. Sorry. um, First off, I believe the star of this episode would be Buggy, aka Jeff Ward.
Damn, he dem- he demands again. He demands presence.
Yep, he showed presence definitely, and like what you said about him being more intimidating, I definitely felt that. He really felt like more of a threat in the live action than the manga and anime. Because yeah, funny, goofy clown, haha, not to be taken
Be
seriously.
goober.
Be- and Buggy did have his moments in the manga, but it was a very yeah, I know Luffy them are gonna come out on top, yada yada yada. But in the live action, where he's just like I'm imagining myself in Luffy's shoes where I would just be so irritated to be losing to this guy who is just laughing at me, using me as a show, and just disrespecting me absolutely. It's
And Shanks.
and
Disrespecting
Shanks
Shanks
and the
especially.
hat.
Ooh.
Oh, but again with some of the characterizations showing more of um, um how these characters view the world of One Piece, where we see the ruined Orange Town and Nami runs. She's trying to escape. Nami runs out the tent where the
Oh yeah,
circus is going
she
on.
fucking like outs Luffy like see you
Yep,
later.
yep. She
Well,
dips, runs out.
not exactly saying see you later, but like
Yeah,
like she dips basically.
but yeah, she dips, runs outside, and just sees this ruined town and just the raw emotion on her face. You can see her veins in her neck popping a little bit, and it's no words have to be exchanged to show that this has a personal hit to her. Like, and it shows, like, because, Arlong Park, we get there when we get there.
We're
But
good there. We're
there's
good
a
there.
little bit of her character that she just finds this absolutely unacceptable.
Uh,
And
like a like a real like a real peek into Nami's like soul and what and her experience and what she sees in that one moment. It feels like she's reliving that her entire past once again, seeing the wreckage of Orange Town.
mhm. and along with more Buggy's crew, one little plot line that I felt is pretty important to Orange Town, in my opinion, is you know, the little plot line with Choo Choo. in the OG, where Choo Choo, this dog, has been, waiting for its owner to return to the store since, Orange Town has come, completely deserted and Buggy takes over. And Luffy springs into action because Buggy's crew burns down the store that Choo Choo and his owner stayed at. So to have it turn on its head like this and not only cut out Choo Choo, but another member of Buggy's crew, I think it was Kabaji was his name. Hold
I
on.
mean, no, I think Kabaji was in the episode.
It was the other one.
Okay,
The lion tamer guy. I'm sorry. I'm bad with names.
yeah. You're good. You're good. You're not a true One Piece fan. You should have known his name.
I didn't remember side character number 273. But another point I'll get to is I understand that things had to be cut. And to condense so many chapters and volumes
Into 8
into
episodes.
8 episodes and still get the adventure and the action and the feel of One Piece down was really fucking impressive.
Mhm.
That's pretty much my 2 cents for that little section, but we'll get more. But what about your thoughts?
Ooh, yeah. I, I'll be honest. I don't remember much of the Orange Town arc, so
Mhm.
when you brought up like Choo Choo the dog, I'm like, I don't fucking remember any of that, honestly. But then because I'll be honest, I think the main appeal of the second episode was getting to see Luffy's backstory and meeting Shanks officially for the first time.
Mhm.
And oh, like they did a really like they did a really good job at characterizing Shanks. It's nearly not nearly one for one, but like they kind of show the key moments of the backstory where you have Shanks returning to Luffy's hometown to restock, and then they're drinking, and then you have a group of pirates that mess with the shop, and Shanks like swallows his pride and like he's like cleaning up their mess, and they make fun of him for that, and Luffy's like pissed why he didn't fight back, and then that's
Mhm.
when he mentions like, hey, not every conflict can be solved with violence. Sometimes like it's all about words. It's all about words as well and how you conduct yourself. And
Mhm.
then Luffy doesn't really take that message to heart the first time until the scene where he messes with that same pirate, and the moment and he's about to get fucking mollywopped until Shanks came in and saved him, and then that
Which
same
was a
pirate.
badass fight scene, by the way. I'll put in.
Oh, Yasop, no, MVP
Yes.
Yasop, dude. Fucking like
The
that scene where
beach.
he's trying to like shoot around the lamb shank dude, and then he
Mhm.
fucking pulls out another pistol, ricochets it off to hit the pirate. I'm like, I was like, oh,
Nah, this
oh,
go
trick
hard.
shot. And oh, dude, it's crazy. And then the scene where where Luffy is dragged out to sea by the pirate, and then the sea monster was just about to kill Luffy, and then Shanks goes in and manages to save him and scares him off with a certain power, which I'm not gonna spoil
Mhm.
for certain fans. But like it felt like I was watching like watching what like I felt like I was seeing it happen once again in real time again, and seeing it feels like I'm watching like it feels exactly the same. And then and then the music and the reveal, like you see like Luffy hugging Shanks, and you see like the blood on his hand. You look down,
Mhm.
his left arm is gone, and then
Mhm.
I I don't know if it's just me, but I get so emotional when it comes to uh like an older or parental figure sacrificing themselves to help the person they care about. And I remember I kind of like teared up a little bit where Shanks said like Luffy was like freaking out that like Shanks lost his arm and he felt like it was his fault. And then Shanks just said like, no, like it's okay. It's just my left arm. I what matters is that you're okay. I'm like, oh, oh. And then the last scene with the two of them together, where he makes where Luffy makes his promise that he's gonna become he wants to attain the One Piece, become king of the pirates, and have an amazing crew that is loyal and has his back. And then you have Shanks supporting his dream and says, "Hey, make sure like this hat is extremely precious to me. Give it.
Mhm.
I'll let you take care of it. make sure you give it back once you become a great pirate. And then
Bro.
the recreation
So
shot,
iconic.
the recreation shot of Shanks passing his hat down to a young Luffy. I'm like, oh, that, and so yeah, that made me tear up, and I was like, they did it, they really did it. And then there's so much like so much heart and love in that scene, and then it made me choke up a lot. I was like, you know what they're doing.
Like, this shit peak.
And we haven't even gotten to the later stuff. This is just his flashback.
Oh, the other one.
Oh, yeah, the other ones. But yeah, no, like
Oh,
I
okay.
think
Okay,
that was
sick.
main. Yeah, but that I would say like that was the main appeal for me was just how how they handled Luffy's backstory and Shanks' characterization. Shanks felt Shanks who the actor playing Shanks. Let me check his name. Shanks. I really hope I'm not butchering his last name. Peter Gadiot. Gadiot. I don't know, but
People with names.
like he does such an amazing job at creating like a soft but commanding presence in his role. Commanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um yeah, I'm a sucker for parental figures that unconditionally love someone, and I'm like, damn.
This shit hit.
Yeah. Uh, let's see. I'll be honest, I don't really have any negatives, and surprisingly, the CGI for Buggy and the Chop fruit stuff, it looks surprisingly like good. Like I'm not like pulled out of it at any point because of it.
Mhm.
Overall, it's a really good second episode. Probably what I think is probably up there, one of my favorite episodes, along with I think my for me number one is episode 6, I think. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
But I'll explain why. But then
Yeah.
we'll get there when we get there. How do you
Mhm.
feel about the do you have any positives or negatives regarding episode 2?
I have no negatives really. Like you said, with the fight with Buggy, CGI definitely worked better in the second episode than the first, in my opinion.
I think part of it was the lighting because of how dark
Yeah.
and certain colors are. It hides a little bit of the CGI feel of it, so
Mhm.
it's not too bad.
And for this episode, I really enjoyed the fight scenes because
Mhm.
I can't stand when fight scenes are just change the camera angle every 2 seconds so we can't see what's going on. No,
Fair.
for for this live action and it stays consistent throughout the show. It's just a lot of one camera movement shots where it just goes 360 around the characters and the actors, and it's fluid. The hits have impact and you get to really see everything. And like I said, the CGI as well, the sea monster look really fucking good.
Oh
They
yeah.
look terrifying.
That's where all the budget went to making that is to make that sea monster look real.
Mhm. And with his name is Koten Ozario. Koten Ozario played young Luffy. Really got the young um, cockiness and the, I guess, naivety of
Yeah.
what it means to be a pirate, and like the interactions with Shanks, where it feels like a father and son, really hit me in the heart. He was really well done.
I mean, One Piece really excels when it comes to like family dynamic because at
Mhm.
nearly every flashback, they important people in the Straw Hat Crew's lives affect them so dramatically that that kind of they help define who we know now as the characters. So
Mhm.
We see how much Shanks plays a part in Luffy's behavior, Luffy's motivations, his dreams is all from Shanks, and that's how important Shanks is as a figure to Luffy.
Mhm.
And it's like that for every other character once we get more into the backstory. Ooh. I also want to mention, before I forget, the music. I love how every character, nearly every character and the villains have their own signature tune that when you
Uh-huh.
see them on screen, that's when you know they're there. and we'll get
Mm.
and then the fuck. I think my favorite one was Buggy's the most, where you hear the dun, dun, dun. That's when you know like that he has command of the screen. That's probably one of my favorite themes from the one of the favorite like soundtrack themes from the show.
I'll get more to my thoughts on that when we get to Arlong. A lot of stuff
Ooh.
for Arlong for me, but no, I agree. I agree.
Alrighty. We're gonna now kind of segue into episode 3, where we're now
Telling
kind of
no
going in.
tales.
Now we're going to the Syrup Town, where we get the introduction. Where we get the introduction of Usopp. Now the story picks up after episode nearly after episode 2, where what happens is what was it? Their current ship that they were using is starting to sink, so they needed to make a quick stop to Syrup Village in order to basically try to find a way to get a new boat and get out before the Marines or anyone else finds them. And during this time, that's when we meet our boy God Usopp.
Sorry, I'm
Bless
seeing all
you.
over the place. God D Usopp.
And then Usopp, what was it? While they were looking for the ship, we see the like the figurehead of of Going Merry. That's not officially named until like next episode, but you see that the ship calls to Luffy and he wants to get that specific ship, but and which so happens to be the one that Usopp is working on, and Usopp strikes up a deal saying I can bring you to someone who controls the shipyard, and you can work a deal out with them. And that's when we meet Kaya and her staff, Clahador, and the butler and the maid. I forgot their name. Not butler and maid, the cook and the maid.
Yeah.
And then while that happens, we learn more about kind of Kaya and Usopp's dynamic, and they have this little like flirt tension, like romance tension going on, which which we will talk a little bit more next episode. And while that also, along with that plot line, we also get more detail. We get more insight with Kobe and Garp's kind of relationship, where we see Garp is interested in Kobe as a person. He's like, okay, I want to see what you can do. And then they kind of, in a way, Garp is basically kind of chosen Kobe to be his like little, essentially his apprentice, and kind of teaches him how to be decisive in war, because when it comes to war, pirates only know about action, so you have to make sure your actions are loud enough to scare them off and show them that you're not meant to be pushed around. And I'll talk a little bit more about dynamic a little bit later after the summary. But while going back to the main plot line, we find out that Clahador is not who he says he is, and he tries to poison Kaya on her 18th birthday. And what happens is they manage to, luckily, unknowingly, Luffy manages to thwart the plan in time. And we learned from Mary. There's a scene between Mary, Kaya's accountant, and Clahador himself, where Mary is worried that Clahador is trying to take advantage of Kaya, because of her sickness and whatnot. And that's when we learn, boom, Clahador was actually a pirate named Captain Kuro of 1,000 Plans, the leader of the Black Cat Pirates. And in this version, he kills Mary.
Yeah. What
And
the fuck?
that caught me off guard. I was not ready for. I'm like, no.
Oh, he's dead.
No, he's like, he ain't like fucking shanked, like not even shanked, like a stab, all 5 fingers, all 5 claws into his chest and pulls it out.
No, bro,
And
got
then
fucking Diavoloed.
bro got Diavoloed. And the episode ends with what was it? Usopp running away. Usopp running away from from the fight after Zoro finally catches him in the act and realizes who he is, and gets knocked out by one of the Black Cat members. And you see Usopp like begging and crying to the whole town, like, pirates are coming, pirates are here, there's pirates on this town. But because he's done it so many times before in the past and he lied about that, no one believes him.
Boy, cry wolf.
And we get his flashback story where the reason why he lies so much is he wants to make his mom feel better, hoping that one day, like the lie of their dad is gonna come back and she'll hopefully feel better, and then she dies on that day, and that's how and it ends with Kobe and Helmeppo arriving on the scene and deciding to hear out Usopp. So, how do you feel about this episode?
How do I feel? Well, I'll first start with Usopp. Jacob
Usopp.
Romero. They made him a low-key Rizzler.
Oh no,
They
high,
made
no,
him
low key. No, he's high key, man. High key Rizzler.
hot, which
Bro,
is
we're not gonna lie. Like his outside interviews and little fun segments that Netflix been producing with the cast. Yo, he's
no,
pretty
he's
pretty.
fine.
He's pretty
Oh.
schmexy, bro. I let him take me out to dinner. I let him take
yeah,
take
definitely.
me out for dinner, man.
Anytime. Sorry, Brett. No, for others who don't know, Brett is my girlfriend.
Hey, don't worry. I don't think she'll find out about this episode. Hopefully not.
Oh, she probably will. Wait until we get to Taz.
Oh.
Anyways,
Oh.
now Usopp was done very interestingly, and I feel that if they went with the full-on Usopp we got in the manga, I feel like people would be turned off because Usopp is very animated, and especially with the which is missing in the live action, the Usopp pirates. It felt like still Usopp, but out of
Cooler Usopp.
everybody in a cooler Usopp, yes, like out of anybody in the cast compared to the OG material, Usopp had the most done differently with him, where he's still this. Then again, I can't even say it feels cowardly.
Just
Not
nervous.
to, yeah, just
Scared.
nervous.
Reasonably scared.
Exactly. Not to the scope of the manga where he just dips every chance he gets. No, he's reasonably running away from these fights. And the I'll wait for this until the 4th episode because the little relationship with Kaya. Ooh. Sin City was in there.
You can't see right now, but I'm making a Giga Chat face.
I'm doing it too.
Okay. Well, if you want my perspective on Usopp, I think it was a change for the better to not have him go all in, all in with the animatedness and cowardice of Usopp. Because I'll be honest, I'll be honest, I don't like Usopp. That's only because of this initial characterization. I'm pretty sure he gets a lot better later on in the series, but like for me, like I felt really pissed off every time he dips his teammates, and I'm like, why should I care about this guy? I mean, sure, he has his brave moments, but like when things are really when the team needs him, he dips on them, and I don't like that. And in this version, it doesn't. He's not exactly like that iteration, so I think I'm glad. Personally, I'm kind of glad they toned down on that a little bit, and also and also the lie. I feel like the lies here are a little bit more endearing because it's just him having fun and just like joking around compared to the lies in how the lies he expresses in the show a little bit. I feel like those were more like just to gas himself up, like kind of annoyingly gas himself up.
Yeah.
And I think it wouldn't have worked as well if Jacob knew how to play Usopp, because I feel like he knows when to tone down, when to like
Yes.
go go all in with the lie, when not to go all in, when to know which is him joking, which is not him joking.
Hmm.
I think I think that's why like I was able to be more like receptive of Usopp in this version compared to OG. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry Usopp fans. I know he probably gets better, but as someone who
Disrespecting
just watched,
Usopp, that's crazy.
I'm
I'm kidding.
dissing
I'm
on
kidding.
God, I'm dissing on God Usopp. And something I want to bring up, how how would you describe like not how, how do you think the dynamic between Kobe and Garp handled in episode 3 is compared to the manga? Because I like this kind of I personally do love the kind of mentor apprenticeship dynamic they have going, and then kind of Garp kind of giving him kind of Kobe the confidence he needs to like be able to take up more of a leadership position and make decisive decisions. So what do you think? How's
I'm sorry.
you're good. You're good.
Yeah. Compared to the manga, we didn't get really anything in the manga when
Really?
going through Romance Dawn. Like I said, we don't really check up on them until Eddie's lobby. But um, at the beginning of every chapter, Oda has like a little drawing or an intro to the chapter where it could be a viewer or reader who submits a request for a drawing, or it's just like a short story of like a one picture show throughout the chapters where it checks up on different characters that we haven't seen in a while.
Mhm,
And for Romance Dawn, it was Kobe and Hamapo's training through Garp, where we only really get to see their growth through these one shots per chapter, and to see something beyond just these pieces of art and to see it translated into live action where I love how Garp, like you said, like the dynamics between like the more experienced older adult and the new generation where Garp is giving these chances to Kobe to really shine, where he's testing him at the same time to get him out of his shell, to make him a proper leader. And also, you can see a little bit of the animosity with Helmeppo because he's like, okay, fine, do it. We'll show you what the real world is like. So
mhm.
that shows also the um, dynamic where they clash. And of course, later on in the live action, it shows when they finally come together and accept their differences for the
And
greater good.
become friends.
Best friends. Right.
Yay! Okay.
I like it. It gets shows Garp breaking Kobe out of his shell.
Yeah, I feel like this episode really solidified why this version of Garp for me. I really like this more like methodical, like when he's not chaotic with Luffy. I'll talk a little bit more about his chaoticness with Luffy, but like when he's with Kobe and really being like a real mentor to Kobe, it felt it felt kind of reassuring to me. I'm like, I can learn something. I can learn from this.
Yeah.
And then I get it if it and like I know like fans are gonna be like, oh, that's not how Garp is. He's supposed to be boisterous and like doesn't follow, like he doesn't follow the rules. He follows his own thing. And he's chaotic and stuff. But like at the same time, I feel like it adds more than it does take away, because in the end his chaotic is still in him as in character, but it's just more contained because Garp in the end does have a leadership position. He has to put on a leadership face
Hmm.
sometimes. I don't know,
Sometimes.
but sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I really felt like that this episode really solidified Garp for me, and I like him a lot, and I love I love Vince's portrayal of him.
Hmm.
Really, really serious. Yeah, like I said, I really like his performance. Oh, and this is also the episode where we also get insight to the introduction of Arlong. And then I like how every time he enters, you hear like the trap beat, like.
Some trap rap music shit.
I mean, I don't mind it, but I don't mind it at all. And then the actor who plays Arlong, McKinley Bletcher the third, bro, he is intimidating. Like, okay, I will say like I'm surprised. I'm surprised they went with prosthetics, and I'm glad they kind of did because I rather have prosthetics on the characters so they can still be able to facially emote instead of full on CGI. Because I feel like that's
Yeah,
such an easy route, but I'm glad they didn't go that route because CGI can look really wonky.
I feel it will look really, really bad if they went through it the whole show.
Yeah, but I will say the nose. It just doesn't hit right. The
Nose.
nose looks so. I remember I saw like a blooper scene where like he's threatening one of the people at the Baratiers, and his nose gets caught in someone's hair. And he's like, "Oh shit, I'm sorry." But yeah, the way he's introduced, like he's like fucking like interrogating Buggy the clown over what happened, and he's scared. He like he is scary when he's on screen. It feels like he's like going like you feel like you're suffocating around him because how like big his presence is, and he basically exudes that to every character he talks to. He would find a way to talk down to them and
Mhm.
like make them submit to him, which is kind of part of his characterization. He views humans and other people as beneath him. Interestingly enough,
Yeah.
um, yeah. And I also want to ask you, does Nami and Kaya have like this dynamic with each other in the original arc where because they like Nami and Kaya talk to each other a lot about like the kind of bit of their differing lifestyles and how they view the world. Is that something that's brought up a lot during that arc? Because I feel like I don't remember that
Um,
that idea.
no, not
Really?
really.
This is
They
so this is original. This
this
is
is
just
original.
okay. So how do you feel about it?
They rarely interacted in the manga, but
So,
I'm sorry.
no, you're good. Don't worry.
It's and of course there are already shippers going around shipping them together just because of the
Nami and
scene.
Gaia, Nami and Gaia.
Oh
Ah!
my god, they're so cute.
Oh my god,
But,
rich and poor dynamic. I mean,
but,
I feel like that's what it is. It's like a rich and poor dynamic. But sorry,
but
continue.
I really like the scene and I was surprised by it where it's Nami sneaking through the mansion, trying to get some loot for reasons that will be revealed later in the series. And stumbles into Kaya's room. Kaya's like, "What are you doing?" Nami's like, "Oh, I couldn't find the room in
Restroom
this mansion." I'm like, with a pillowcase.
full of
Interesting.
stuff.
And I like the talk they have about how Nami is very, no, I don't fuck with pirates. I'll never be like them. Yada yada yada. And kind of like, well, this stuff I have, it's not really having meaning anyway. I mean, it's more gaudy and all that.
Mhm,
And, maybe you should, give it away to others who are in need, like friends, family, yada, yada, yada. And
mhm,
this whole, again, Nami being torn with, opening up to her friends who she's denying are her friends. She's saying, oh, I'm just going to use them, just going to use them. Spoiler. But I like this little interaction with Kaya because it shows, yeah, she does actually care. Like when Kaya starts getting sick, she's like, "Oh, I'm okay, Kaya. I'm fine. I'm fine." But
I I don't
Nami
like
has
I
this
don't I
tool.
don't like being viewed as like fragile because and then I think that's kind of the
Mhm,
spark of their relationship. Kaya
yeah.
appreciates Nabi being so blunt around her because everyone treats her like glass.
Mhm. But yeah,
That's
sorry,
no, you're good. You're good. It's just kind of funny. I just hear.
sorry, sniffles. But this again, enhancing on the source of material. This little interaction is one of the scenes I remember the most.
Mm.
And then
So yeah.
there's the three dumbasses.
Oh,
Next,
the
like right after is the scene with Usopp, Luffy, Zoro in the kitchen where
I will say I like the detail. They don't. They still include Zoro's lack of direction, where he's like, "Can't find it. I can't find anything in this damn mansion." And he's like, "Oh, it's." And then he's like, "Oh, I know where I'll follow. Like, just follow my nose. I know where the kitchen is." And we find out that fucking Zoro is walking the exact opposite direction of the kitchen because they turn around. And I'm like, "Oh, yep." And I'm glad they don't get rid of that. I'm glad there's some things they don't get rid of because, like, at the same time they don't overplay it too. They don't overplay it too often. Because I feel like a lot of the like little quirkiness of each of the characters gets overplayed because it's an anime and they have to make that joke. They make those quirkiness jokes constantly. So I'm glad like they still kept it, but not to the point where they make that like completely take over the character. Where Zoro's like, where's the starboard? Which way is it? Oh, and then oh, and then they have, and then that's when they also have like their talk between like you get kind of both Kaya and Usopp's viewpoint on each other, like and how they feel about
It's
each
so
other.
cute. It's like, do you think she likes me? It's such a bro talk.
Like, do you think she like likes me? I'll be I'll be honest. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to jump a little bit more to episode 4. I am surprised that they got them together, or at least like they had them kiss.
Yeah, that was. I'll save for episode 4, but I was like,
I'm sorry. I feel like I can't beat around the bush.
Zinzi.
I need to talk about that. But
You
like,
want to talk about it now? No. Let's save it for 4. Let's save it for 4.
save it. Okay, fine, save it before. But like, I'm okay. Besides that, and then we have Clahador, or I'm sorry, not Clahador, Kuro of a Thousand
Ooh,
Plans.
1,000
His review.
plans.
What I really like, at least for this episode and the next one, they kind of built him kind of like a slasher style horror villain, where
Mhm.
where like you hear his theme and then you hear and how he because he moves so quickly he can kind of like he has that whole like trope of slasher villains where they can just appear out of nowhere. And then later, and then in episode 4, you see him kind of like stalk them across the halls and like try to intimidate them with like his claws scratching the surfaces and stuff. It really feels like a horror movie, especially since like in episode 4, like Zoro and Luffy are basically out of commission, and you're just following Kaya Kaya, Nami, and Usopp, and they're like fucking. They're reasonably scared because you're a guy. They're fighting a guy with like super speed with
Mhm.
fucking blade claws for hands. All right, but
You
I
want to
think
go
I'll.
to episode 4 while we're talking about it
Yeah, I
because
know.
there's so
Well,
much you
yeah.
really want to
Oh,
talk
okay.
about
Now
for it.
to officially wrap up episode 3, I think it's a pretty good episode. I
Yeah.
think I'll talk more about 3 and 4 together as a whole next one right now, and I'll get a little bit more into it. But episode 4, we kick off the episode where where both of Kuro's minions just dump Sanji into not Sanji dump
Hanji.
Zoro into the well, and we get in this episode we get a Zoro centric Zoro focused backstory. And what was it, you have the Marines following with Usopp's, where they go to the establishment, and Kuro manages to hide the evidence enough to get the Marines off his back. But and what was it? And Kobe knows something's wrong, but he can't. But because there's no physical evidence that he can like reasonably go in and search the house for, he can't. He feels like, yeah, we can't do much. I'm sorry, we gotta go. And then during that time, for half an episode, you have Zoro like spending half the episode climbing out of a well, but you get his flashback
Oiled up,
story. Huh?
greased up.
You get his backstory where we find out about where he used to live in a place called Shimotsuki Village. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. Where
Wait,
he is sparring, where he is sparring to become a swords. He's trying to become a swordsman, and he's sparring with his rival Kuina.
mhm.
And uh, Zoro is frustrated that he's losing to Kuina, and Dick challenges her to a duel with real swords, and it ended with Kuina beating him once again, beating him once again, and despite Kuina winning, she expresses the idea that eventually Zoro is going to surpass her because physically and biologically, uh, Zoro's gonna get stronger and overpower her because he's a man and she especially states like, oh, girls can beat boys, but no woman has ever beat a man in a fight, in a real physical fight. And then but then Zoro rejects that idea. He's like, no, you're my milestone. You don't get to pretend, you don't get to give up, because if you do, what's all this training for? I want to fight and grow along with you until and so I can vow, so one of us can become the world's greatest swordsman. And then that kind of kicks off their rival relationship. But unfortunately, Kuina dies from an accident.
She
And
falls to the greatest enemy in One Piece, down the stairs.
wait, real? Wait, is that canon? Is that a joke? Please tell. That's a joke,
Yes,
right?
she falls down the stairs.
She falls down the stairs and
Okay,
fucking dies.
okay, this feels so fucked to laugh at, but she actually dies from falling down the stairs.
Oh my, really?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Alrighty. I thought that was a joke, but I guess not. But yeah, and his backstory ends where he asks his mentor and Kuina's father, I guess. Yeah, right. Kuina's father slash Zoro's mentor, if he could
Mhm.
take Kuina's sword, the Wado Ichimonji, in order to help achieve both of their dreams to become the world's greatest swordsman. And then he managed to climb out the well, save Luffy from the Marines, and they go back to the house and Kuro's ass and save the day. And also, uh, freaking Kaya and Usopp
They
kissing in One Piece. That's unheard
not
of.
in One Piece.
Alrighty, how do you feel about the episode?
Um, first I'll start with down the stairs. It wasn't said at all how she died in the Netflix, which is why I was like, he
Probably for the
has no
best.
clue. How do I tell
Probably,
him?
probably for the best, because I feel like if they specifically stated that she died falling down the stairs, it would be unintentionally funny, which it shouldn't be.
But I'd say Zoro's backstory was down to the T comparison
It's
to
a
the manga.
it's a
It's
very accurate backstory. I'll be honest, I was kind of surprised that they would portray they would portray it one for one, because I thought with kind of the idea, I feel like with our current day and age, to have a woman declare say that men are physically stronger than women, that it feels like something. I feel like you just wouldn't hear that nowadays nowadays. So I thought they would neuter the message or change it, but I'm surprised that they didn't do that.
hmm I'm glad they didn't, because it's
That's
an
a big part of
essential
this.
part to
That's a
the
big part of the
story and
story.
her
Yeah.
character, where she truly believes, yeah, once I'm older, this skill isn't going to get me anywhere. You're just going to outgrow me. And so I was like, no, we got to do this together. One of us has got to reach the peak, so don't give up.
Man, break Zoro, man. True gender equality. I don't care. You're
True
gonna
gender
join me.
equality.
True gender
Minority
equality.
hunters world.
No, but like I said, I'm glad they adapted this to a T, because if they downplayed the message or the conflict for Kuina, it just wouldn't work. Or have it be something different, it just wouldn't work as well. It just wouldn't work as well.
Yeah.
And then
But
how do you who would
the chase scene, the cloud
oh
war, like you said, just pure slasher horror movie shit, which I was surprised, because back to comparing the OG material and the live action. The OG, the fight takes place on just an uphill
oh yeah, I
where,
remember that.
yeah, it's Usopp crying for help from the Straw Hat saying, no one believes me. And Luffy's like, okay, they believe no pirates are coming, so no pirates are going to come. We'll stop them here. And it's just this huge fight that plays out on the hill. Unfortunately, Django isn't there. Go Django, but it's okay. But I like the turn they did with this. It's very different. And like seeing Usopp hide behind the curtain like some Scooby Doo shit is so fitting with the character.
Roro,
Raggy.
Roro, Raggy, Ree.
But again, more on Klahador's performance.
Dude,
Sorry, I keep butchering names.
or
Alexander
Kuro.
Alexander Maniatis. Hope I'm saying that right.
Let me look that up right now. Where's
Yeah.
Cloud? Yeah, Alexander Maniatis. I feel so bad for butchering people's names.
But it's so. I will say this is one of the performances that I enjoyed more than the OG, where
Really?
he shows this professionalism and this sweet face and this care for Kai at the beginning of the show where you would have no clue. But more and more you go on, you see how this plan of his is crumbling and he's becoming unhinged. And he's just like, it's, I'm just going to toy with my food now like a cat, which is fitting.
Mm.
Black cat pirates, yada, yada, yada. And just hearing him just berate Kaya and her family as he's just hunting them down. It's just the emotion, just the
Ro-
raw intensity. Like you said, he just commands that scene. It's
It's
so good.
scary. Especially like the entire time you see him like fucking like slashing, almost stabbing Kaya
Mhm.
during his monologue, and then how do the scene where he's like where he like you see him crying and you're like, oh, why is he crying? And then you see him, the reason why he's crying is he just is crying because of all the anger that he felt like he was put through because of Kaya's like kind of like her in his eyes stuck up
Spoiled
rich
little
bitch
brat.
behavior, exactly. And then he's like, I'm so tired of dealing with you, and I'm like, holy fuck. And it's like raw visceral anger. And then Kai, and then you see Kyle like ready to jump out and attack him he brought up like, oh, your daddy didn't care about you because he wasn't around. He wasn't around even when he was still alive. And
Mhm.
then I will say, if you don't, I feel like a bit of a negative for me regarding the arc is that I feel like Usopp's presence in this arc is not as strong compared to the original, in my opinion.
Mm.
I mean, he does have his moment where he becomes brave and stands up and tries to fight Kuro himself. I remember the scene like he manages to pelt eggs at Kuro in the original, right, or something like that.
Mhm.
I feel like here, like the fact he only got one shot off, Kuro catches it and then fucking like bodies him, and then eventually you have like Luffy, winning the fight for them in the end. But I feel like the moment for Usopp was kind of downplayed a little bit, and
Mhm.
I think I don't know. I feel like I don't exact. I feel like it just felt a little off compared to the original. That's about it. I think that's the only gripe I have. I can't exactly explain why it feels that way. I just know
No,
like
I can.
if it feels like Usopp's presence just shortened, and I think part of it is also because of the 8 episode format. Because it's so
I
short,
can.
some characters, aspects, and development and dynamics gonna be cut a little bit for the sake of time.
No, I understand, and I can kind of get that too, because like you said, the scene where Kaya just says "fuck it" after Klahadore Kuro is insulting, her family, her father, all that. That's actually hmm, in the manga when Usopp is first discovered before Kuro's big plan is foiled. Kuro berates Usopp about his father instead. So
Oh,
that gives a whole nother purpose to
oh.
Usopp, jumping in, having this personal beef with Kuro, where in the OG, Kuro's like, oh, your father just ran away. He's no father. He's just a stuck up pirate. And Usopp straight up just decks him in the face and is like, I'm proud that my father's a great warrior of the sea. And that,
I don't remember that. I'm
ooh,
sorry.
no, that's
That's
really
what
good
felt.
Usopp moment.
That's what it felt like it was missing. Like, hmm. Yeah,
Because
like I said, I don't exactly remember the arc, but like I remember like watching the live action. I'm like, something's missing, and I don't
yeah,
know
and
exactly what.
with the live action, it's Usopp's there just it felt like he was just there to protect Kai and help the Straw Hats. But in the manga and anime, it felt like he was fighting for not only his pride, but his father's pride as a pirate as well.
Mhm.
And that gave more characterization to Usopp wanting to be this great warrior of the sea. Yes, he's a coward, but in times like these, he can show that he can man up and get stuff done when his friends, his family, or his pride itself and his reason to fight is being insulted. So I kind of bummed out that that was missing.
Okay, that I'm so glad you clarified it because I was like confused the entire time because I didn't remember anything from the arc, and I'm like, if it's missing something, but I just can't place my finger on it because I can't
Mhm.
remember the arc that well. Alrighty, and how do okay? So kind of to wrap up the episode, along with Zor, I don't, yeah, I think I think out of the both 3 and 4, I think that's the major negative I have regarding that arc. It's because kind of like the reduced role of Usopp in those episodes, and to cap it off, uh, you have Usopp and Kaya like having an on-screen kiss, which is something you don't see in One Piece. Kissing or committed romances. I want to
Mhm.
know your thoughts on that. Like, it's interesting. What how do you feel about that?
I'll say that's probably one of the only small negatives I have with the live action
They really
because
want romance to happen.
the romance dawn, yeah, but it's it's I get it's for the dramatic effect or like to change things up for the Netflix adaptation, but I feel like this is something they should have not gone with
Mhm.
because throughout these 1,000 episodes of One Piece, there's little sections in the anime and manga where they, of course, get higher bounties. And for these segments, it shows all the islands they've been to, all the friends they've met, and their family members, and their reactions to their bounties. So when we get to Kaya and checking up on Usopp and the Usopp pirates, like, look, that's Usopp. That's so cool. It kind of reminds you, like, maybe when Usopp's done traveling, will things go well with Kaya? Could he return? Is this there? It's like he's not really there with their moments yet. You feel something could happen, and
Mhm.
it feels more rewarding to stick with the show because it's something you want to see at the end of the show. Whereas in the live action, we
They pull the
kind
trigger
of
early.
got it already.
So okay, so you're saying you like it mainly for like the kind of like the teasing aspect a little bit, like kind of like, hey, they
Yeah.
might come, they might be together, they
Oh,
might not.
cute. Mhm,
I will say, okay, I don't mind the relationship. I only say that because I felt like there was already a hint of it before in the original.
mhm.
And how do I say it? But at the same time, I understand that sentiment, and also because I think I remember at the time, like the writers really wanted to have certain members of the Straw Hat crew get together, but Eiichiro Oda was like, "No, don't do it. You're
No.
not putting any of them together. If you do,
Really?
I'm walking." Or some shit like that. I think he said
Really?
something
They
along.
tried? Oh, no,
They
no, no,
try.
no.
No, they try to. Okay, let me say allegedly, so I don't get in trouble. Allegedly, the
Mhm.
writers wanted to have members of the Straw Hat crew get together, and
No.
Eiichiro Oda, who was there supervising, he shut that down immediately, saying, "No, I don't want you guys having the Straw Hat crew having romance because it ruins
Oh,
the
yeah.
dynamic of the group.
Since
If you have a romantic relationship within a family like group, that dynamic is going to take more of a precedence and it's going to ruin the family dynamic." And I agree with that sentiment,
mhm.
unless
Since
you're fairy tale, since it's all about shipping.
fairy tales, magic and friendship and shipping. But
Lots of
no,
shipping. Sorry, please
I'm
continue.
glad Oda shut that down quick because since the beginning of reading One Piece, he has stated no relationships, romantic or any of that whatsoever, will be
Which I
brought to
respect.
tribes. Nothing. And I like it that way because they just feel like a family. Yeah, I know Sanji can go like, "Oh, I love you, Nami, I love you, Robin," but
Run, run.
to hypothetically like think that what if Sanji did end up with Nami and they replicated the feelings? That would be the dynamic just wouldn't feel right with how they've grown together. And the spoiler for Whole Cake, I'm a very Sanji kind of guy because it's really cute.
Sanji.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but I can't wait to get to Sanji. But
Well, speaking of Sanji, next episode. Okay, alrighty. So episode five. It picks up immediately after episode four, where they officially got the ship from Kaya, and they officially called it the Going Merry. As they leave away from Syrup Village into their next location, hopefully to the Grand Line, but that always gets interrupted.
yeah.
They run into Garp's Marine Army on their ship, and they have a face off, and then Garp. Oh, yeah, I forget. It's still adapted in anime. So seeing Garp pick up a cannonball and just yeet it, I'm like, holy shit! And then but then luckily, Luffy manages to like inflate in size and deflect it back and hit the Marines with it, and which ends their duel for now. Where the Straw Hats managed to escape, albeit a little roughed up because they didn't cooperate very well. You have Nami trying to lead the ship, and then you have Usopp doesn't know how to load a cannon, and then he drops all the cannonballs all over the floor. And then you have Zoro being useless and like, which way, starboard? And then Luffy kind of did most of the fighting work, fortunately, I mean. And then they managed, and then and that's when they had the review. That's when officially they revealed Garp is Luffy's grandfather, and that is that's kind of like the elephant in the room slash tension that happens within the group where everyone's surprised and kind of like upset that Luffy withheld this information from them without because when you have your grandfather who is in the Marine, who's also a vice admiral, hunting you down, that's it's gonna get dangerous, and you don't want to and especially for Nami's case, she doesn't want to like get caught now when she's so close to her goal and um whatnot. But eventually, they get kind of stuck in this foggy area of the sea, but they manage to navigate out with the power of Luffy's sense of smell for food, and they run into the Baratier.
Yay!
Bro, I would love to fucking eat there, dude.
God, I fucking wish.
I wish, dude. Like, okay, okay. I'll stop talking about food. So
Let's
they
stop being
managed to.
hungry.
I'm hungry, bro. I didn't eat lunch yet. Okay, but so what happens is the One Piece crew, the Straw Hat crew, decides to make a quick pit stop at Baratier's. They manage to pay their way in to get a C, and we get the introduction of Sanji, where he starts scene off cooking a true bluefin saute, which is a elephant tuna with asparagus and sweet soul reduction. I remember that because I would love to eat that.
Mm-hmm.
And we already get early characterization of Sanji, where he's he's a very confident confident to cocky kind of person a little bit, where he's very confident in his skills as a chef, and and you see his kind of flirtatious nature come in, but I'll get a little bit more about his characterization in terms of his flirtation. But
Yes.
after he makes the food, his little creation, you meet Red Leg Zeph officially for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Gordon Ramsay looking at. No, he dead ass feels like Gordon Ramsay, and I'm
No,
glad.
it's
But then what happens is Zeph like rejects the food, tells him you can't be making food like that, and then you see their early dynamic where they're kind of just shouting at each other
fuck off.
like like they're like kind of like a grandpa grandson situation, like, hey, fuck you, no, fuck you, go on. And then it ends with Zeph pulling him out of the cooking line and having him wait tables. And then we get to see little cameos from characters from the manga, and then you see Sanji's fucking skills as a fighter, and he just mollywops two of the customers because they were getting too unruly. and then he officially meets the Straw Hat crew, takes their order, flirts with Nami because he's a womanizer flirter, whatever, I don't know what you call it. And then while that happens, you have Garp, who is still trying to repair his ship after the naval battle, and he calls Mihawk. And we'll talk more about Mihawk later, but he gives him the assignment to have Mihawk take Luffy back alive, no matter what, they need to do. Kobe overhears the conversation, to which it leads to a scene where he talks to Helmeppo about asking who Mihawk is, and we learn that Mihawk is one of the 7 warlords of the sea, and he learns that those 7 warlords get immunity because they work with the Marines in order to achieve tasks that the Marines can't be involved with, to keep their hands clean. And that's when he feels conflicted as a Marine, because he joined the Marine in order to serve and protect everyone and have everyone follow under the same law. And that's when Garp has to basically talk and reason with him about how the world really works. And while that happens, fucking Straw Hat Crew goes off eating delicious, and then that's when Nami finally brings up the elephant in the room about Garp being Luffy's grandfather, and then what was it? And then again, like, Luffy doesn't talk about it because he feels like there's no need to talk about it. Like, it doesn't matter because they're still gonna do that. That doesn't change anything in his eyes. And then he gets dragged into the kitchen because he could not pay for the meal. And fucking red leg Zeph is like, yeah, have fun cleaning 1 year's worth of dishes. Get going. And then while that happens, you have the remaining crew, the remaining Straw Hat crew. They kind of have their moment together, and that's when they run into Mihawk, to which Zoro recognizes, and he challenges Mihawk to a sword fight to the death. And to which Mihawk decides, I'll take. He accepts the challenge, and if he wins and kills him, he's going to take Luffy with him. And then that kicks off the next big event. And while that was happening, you have like some scenes with more establishing characterization of Sanji, and he talks with Luffy about his dream of finding the all blue, and how and kind of his philosophy of like never wasting food and always feeding everyone no matter what. The scene culminates where what was it? Nami tries to talk Zoro out of fighting Mihawk, but because Luffy realizes this is part of Zoro's dream, he decides to let him fight. Dawn comes. They have the battle. They have the iconic battle. You see Mihawk pull out the tiny little knife dagger, and then
rabbits with a cannon.
All right, wait, I want to say the scene. You want to be Mihawk here?
Go for it.
What the hell is this? What the hell is this? I wanted a sword fight.
I don't hunt rabbits with a cannon.
Old ass line. And then they had their duel, and then obviously Mihawk wins, but he is like surprised by Zoro's like tenacity and determination to fight for his dream. And then he's like, all right, I'll give you the privilege of being slain by Yoru. And he pulls out his sword. They have their samurai style slash. You see Zoro's swords two of Zoro's swords that he was using breaks and shatters on impact from the attack, and only Kuina's sword, the Wado Ichimonji, stands. And then he decides he knows he lost, and he opens his chest open, and he says, a swordsman's a slash on the back is the swordsman's greatest shame or something like that. I messed up the line. And then luckily Mihawk was intrigued by both Zoro and Luffy and decided to let them live. But his help, but the survival of Zoro is left in doubt. So, how do we feel about episode 5?
Let's start from the top. First
Let's.
off, this is one of my favorite episodes. It had
Oh
so
yeah,
much, as you know, Sanji, one of my top straw hats easily.
my
And
favorite character too. He's my favorite straw hat.
gang. And gosh, I love that scene where, because before the show even came out, it showed the scene with Sanji and Zeph going out in the kitchen. I'm like, no,
It,
they chose the perfect two people to cast.
mhm.
Craig Fairbass's Zeph is one of my favorite performances.
Oh yeah, wait. So a little fun fact. What was it? Craig Fairbrass. He's Soap from
Yeah.
Call of Duty.
Wait, no, he's it's Ghost.
Ghost. Wait, he's Ghost. Oh,
Yeah.
Soap. Hold on, let me see. Let me double check one more time. Now I'm concerned. I don't want to be. I don't like Call of Duty. Let's see, Call of Duty. He's in a lot. He voiced a lot of Call of Duty. It's like, oh yeah, no, he's Ghost. He's Ghost. You're right.
Soap. Fope.
Soap. Soap. What is water?
Big soap.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
Russian
back.
but
Go. All right, back to. Yeah, I love Sanji and Zev's dynamic. I loved it in the original, and the way they really brought it to life in here. I was like, yes, yes, yes. And then that's just the early scenes. That we're not talking about episode 6 yet.
oh, we'll get there.
We'll get there when we get there. But yeah, sorry, I'll let you continue.
I'm sorry, Britt. I love Taz so much.
Oh,
I
he's
love Taz
sexy.
so much. He is sexy. He is the perfect.
He's a beefcake.
Sanji.
He's surprisingly a beefcake. That's that shot where he's shirtless for the next episode. God damn.
God damn. But just
And I gotta
seeing
say,
on Insta and his socials where he trained his ass off for this role. He embodied Sanji to the T and did everything. He learned how to fight with only his feet. He learned how to cook. He probably already knew how to cook, but it felt like he was so natural in this role. And one of the things I like to point out where the live action does better, and this can be a whole topic on it, so you can chime in, is Sanji's interactions with women.
oh,
Where it's a lot of people can be turned off by it in the anime and the manga, because in the
I know I am.
later, yeah, in the
Like-
later, it gets hard to defend the stuff he does, but in the live action, it's just he's actually attractive.
And it helps that Taz is attractive.
And
But like,
not just some swan, or just like, ooh, just
he's not like he's not ogling the woman. He's not ogling women or anything. He's more like he's a very flirtatious person.
Yes.
And then but luckily it's either I feel like it's either the writing or Taz himself, but he manages to bring his charisma to really make, even though the charisma never works, because I don't think any of the women actually like him, but like he doesn't like try to over push it by saying nice one, bundle your titties or something like that. And so I'm glad they, like I said, I think this is one of the better changes. I didn't like Sanji being so creepy, so I'm glad they kind of like toned him down a little bit and have him be like more charismatic. I like him when he's charismatic, because
Yes.
I know Sanji in the anime can be charismatic, but like we need more of that, and I'm glad that they like followed that route rather than the creepy groper type.
We don't talk about Fishman Island, Sanji. He wasn't there. He was not there.
I don't know. I don't know it. I think I'd rather not know it for now. And
Do you care about
and
the spoiler?
yes,
I
no,
feel
it's
like
fine.
it's something I want to touch on with Sanji's character.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah, if it feels important, go ahead and bring it up. It is a spoiler. It is a spoiler podcast, so
Okay,
that's their
spoiler
problem.
alert for Fishman Island X time skip Sanji. when Sanji trains for the 2 years, he's been away from woman for so long that when he comes back after 2 years and sees an actual woman, it's just creepy. It's
Really?
chasing. It's when he sees Nami and Robin again for the first time, he immediately just sees
Sure.
their tits and just has a nosebleed so high he goes skyrocketing into the air. And it's
Damn, Master Roshi.
sometimes exactly, and in Fishman Island, it's sometimes to the point where it feels like he's a hindrance to the crew, where he's
Mm.
just spending this whole time like with the mermaids and trying to get his nosebleed under control. And that's basically his whole arc for Fishman Island. And I'm like, this is not a really a goated Sanji moment. It got better, definitely, like with Onigashima and Wano later on. But that's another talk.
Mhm.
But to see this go back to the root of what I believe, and I kind of hope Sanji went down when it came to his charisma and his suaveness and his flirtatiousness. We saw this in bits of the manga. It was never this crazy at the start.
Mhm.
And just seeing this portrayed by Taz is just it's refreshing. It
It's
feels
very
more
refreshing.
real.
Bro, it worked on me, man. If I was a girl, I'll be like, "Take me away, Sanji. I want
Oh no, got a
I just
crush on
want you to
Taz.
take I just want you to take care of me. Please, I want to take care of me with your cooking. I love you."
And even so, I like how they keep like, oh, he's not, picking up these girls off their feet. He still kind of looked at women like, oh, cool. Like Nami's not feeling it at the table at all.
It's kind of fun. I will say the funny scene where like after the whole thing happens with Sanji and Nami, and you have the entire crew just ragging on her, like, "Madam, would Madam prefer crystal water in a refined glass, or Madam would a golden bowl be more your style, Madam? Nami's got a boyfriend."
I love those interactions with the crew. It makes it feel more connected and as a family. And
And it feels like a friend group.
exactly.
You fuck around with each other sometimes.
Like,
You're like,
oh, you got a girlfriend.
Look,
Oh, she's
look at this
so
look at this
cute.
fucking goober just drooling over you. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I love Sanji's introduction. I love Sanji's early interactions with Zeph and Mihawk. We got to talk about Mihawk.
Before we get to Mihawk,
Okay,
I'd like to
before.
address the elephant in the room that will lead to Mihawk.
Okay.
As some of you who have watched One Piece already know,
Mhm.
Don Krieg was fairly absent.
Oh yeah,
That is
forgot
a
about I
big
forgot about Don Krieg.
chunk
Honestly,
cut from the source material. And
yeah.
I'll speak about this because it is a very surprisingly well managed cut because when you think about it, they still keep the part where Gin comes in asking for help to be fed, and that is an essential part and an essential look into Sanji's character. How he says, "Oh, no matter what, I'll feed someone if they ask." And to have that whole scene cut and just have Dawn Creek off screen, I thought was hilarious. But
Freaking okay, yeah. The
it's,
I feel kind of bad that Don Krieg got the axe in the story, though. Not gonna lie.
there was still some development to be had with Dawn Creek's arrival between not only Sanji and Luffy, but Sanji and Zeph,
Hmm.
where, and I'll get to that in the next episode, Sanji's departing from the Baratie wasn't really as impactful without the whole Dawn Creek arc.
Yeah.
That's my main little gripe, but
And I understand why, and I think I have I have a similar grasp to it why, because I have an issue. I have a bit of an issue with it too, but we'll elaborate more later. Let me get to
mhm,
it.
yeah. But your thoughts?
Yeah,
Overall, I have to say your thoughts.
I am a bit bummed that they cut out Don Krieg because he does play a part. He does play a part to really characterizing both Sanji and Zeph. But at the same time, like, if we're talking about just Mihawk's introduction, they really know how to make him a fucking threat. I don't think again, like, I think if we went for if I'm going from the anime adaptation, they show cuts of Mihawk's fury and power, but it's all in like a still frame, like a
Mhm.
still shot, still art still art shot, and then you see like little like chaotic strokes to show how powerful he is. But here we actually see like the full physical force of his power,
Mhm.
where he like fucking like cuts people down, people like flipping from getting hit by his sword. And the
Mhm.
scene that gets me, one strike from his sword and fucking splits a ship in half, and I'm like,
Mhm.
holy! And you just hear all the screams
Yeah.
like, ah! And then Don Creed comes out. He's the last survivor. He's like, you destroyed my men. You killed all my men. Destroyed my fleet. Why? And he's like, you woke me from my nap. And then, well,
Just
let
killing
me
time.
make this permanent. And then he tries to shoot him. And then fucking Mihawk just like basically rolls his eyes, cuts through all the bullets and the cannon round, and he says, "Such a disappointing last gambit." Stab. But that just goes to show like they want to make Mihawk extreme. They really want to set the scale of how powerful Mihawk is. And I don't and even then like Mihawk is not even the most powerful person in the One Piece world, right?
No, but
He's
I'd say he's up there. We
he's
haven't even
very much up there.
seen Mihawk's full potential
So
yet.
yeah. And then I will say the actor who plays Mihawk, well, let me see his name. I'm sorry.
Stephen
Mihawk.
John Ward.
He does an amazing job at playing
Ooh,
Mihawk. Really getting.
another good-looking guy as well. Golly.
Oh yeah,
Stop. I'm
showing
stop.
off those toned body, bro.
Mhm.
And what was it? I feel like people it's really easy to like, because I know some people are hung up about his voice being a little bit too higher on the register compared to like the OG, where he's a little bit more on the deeper end, or
Mhm.
like the older deeper end. But I'm glad that the actor played to his strengths and focused more on the behavior, the mannerisms and behaviorism of Mihawk rather than just his voice. Because I feel like if I was in that situation, I probably would have made the mistake of being like, oh, I just focus trying to deepen my voice and not really focus on the characterization and mannerisms of Mihawk. And
Mhm.
he sound I love how disinterested he is the entire time. He's like, while he's still like he's having a casual conversation with Garp. He's just massacring like
Yeah.
pirates after pirates. And
It's just a
then
blunt sassiness where he's just like, just killing time.
j- just killing some time. I have him as my profile picture for Netflix now because
Good.
I love his performance that much. And then the scene with Zoro versus Mihawk. Oh, it's crazy.
My favorite fight in the live action, hands down. No debate.
Yeah. And then and then I'm glad they didn't like CGI it or like try to cheapen the fight scene, because you actually see you actually see how they move and fight.
Mhm.
And then like surprisingly Mihawk like the act like the Mihawk is able to really he's somehow able to make the fight with only using his little hunting knife interesting in the fight. And he seemed like deflect and like hold off strikes and then fucking stab Zoro in the chest. And I'm like, god damn. So yeah, Mihawk standout role,
Yep.
a very much a standout
Definitely.
role in the season. And what was it? And and I also want to bring up more development between Garp and Kobe's dynamic when it comes to Kobe's trying to wrestle the idea of the world and the laws not being equal, and it doesn't apply to everyone. And then Garp mentioning how yes, the law doesn't always apply to everyone. It's not everyone's applied equally under the law, but that's up to and he had to change his ideals in order to fit within that world. And it's up to you if you're okay with sleeping at night knowing that. So how do you feel about that scene with Garp and Kobe?
Garp and Kobe. No, I like the scene. I felt like it's something that was needed to characterize both Kobe and Garp, with Garp kind of revealing to him, hey, this is it. This is the real world. This isn't like kind of like how Shanks was to young Luffy, where Shanks showed him that piracy isn't all it's made out to be, or it's like this happy go lucky thing. No, there are dangers in the world. Where Garp is showing Kobe, there's some things we just have to, suck up and accept about it. That's
And
the
he,
real world.
and he even mentions how like I could have been fleet admiral, but I didn't want to. I didn't take the position because that means I have to be working under their rules. I want to work under my
Mhm.
rules. So it's up to
Exactly.
you if you want to be okay with that.
Yep.
I love how like I felt like dialogue wise, like modern writing, they could have easily made Garp sound unreasonable. Like it doesn't make sense. And like Kobe's in the right for wanting to like be wanting to be idealistic, but I like how Garp was being reasonable. Like, hey, I understand that ideally everyone should be followed and trialed under the same law, but not that's not how the world always works, and we have to change with that. And
Mm.
that's such a mature. It's a very like mature message.
And at the same time, I feel like he's inspiring Kobe or motivating him to find his own way to change the world and kind of spark this flame to change something inside the Marines as well.
Mhm. And I think he even says like at the end of the conversation, he's like, "Hey, your uniform's starting to starting to fit you now."
Yep. Hmm.
Man. And then I think one more thing before we move on is more characterization between Nami and the Zoro and
Ooh,
their dynamic.
yes. I wanted to talk about that scene. You reminded me.
Because we get this is kind of Nami's first time really opening up about her past to other people. Because I
Mhm.
remember like for Kaya's case, she lied about what happened. But in this case, she's surprisingly being open about that.
Mhm.
So, what are your thoughts on that? I'm curious.
um, like how it starts out, like the whole talk with them saying, "Oh, don't you think it's kind of fucked up that Luffy didn't tell us about this?" Yada yada yada,
Like,
and
yeah, a little bit.
it shows how close, how far they Zoro and Nami still have to come to understand each other,
Mhm,
because Zoro's very, bounty hunter, yada yada, get it done, and he's like, we've been making enemies everywhere we go. It's not going to be easy if you're trying to hide out and run away and not get caught, because that's the life we're choosing.
mhm.
And they have this whole drinking game where they're like, do you know me? Do you not? And I like it. I like the little hint at both of them. And it's cute interaction. Yeah. Sorry. My fucking.
No, you're good. And then like and then we see how much the crew has changed Nami because like she's like trying so hard to to like try to talk Zoro out of fighting Mihawk because she considers him like her friend, and in hindsight like later episodes like she doesn't call people her friends very lightly, so
Mhm.
this is a genuine moment for her, and she genuinely cares about Zoro.
And
So
multiple times later, there's one instance we'll get to later where, Nami steps in and shows that she does really care for the crew and doesn't want them to get involved with her
with
business
her
or,
yeah.
yeah. But
Oh yeah, overall one of my favorite episodes.
yeah, five
One of
was a
my
fire episode.
Alrighty, now that happens, let's move on to episode 6. The so we leave the episode kicks off right after the battle where they drag Zoro into their ship and try to like figure out a way to help like heal him up because he's lost so much blood. And an interesting moment they showed was that we see Luffy actually like
Mhm.
worrying and feeling like unsure about himself as a captain and leader because he felt like maybe part of him felt like he should have stepped in and not let Zoro get hurt and almost dying. And you know it's bad when you hear Luffy say, "I'm not hungry right now, Nami." You're not hungry?
You're what?
So, what was it? Nami tells Luffy to go into the restaurant and try to find a doctor. To which Zeph and Sanji answer the call, and they decide. Then they manage to stabilize him for now, but his health is into question. And while this happens, we finally get the introduction of Sanji's backstory, where he frames it in a way of what makes a captain different from the rest of his crew is that they need to make the hard decisions. And he reveals, yes, Red Leg Zeph was originally a pirate, a captain of the Cook Pirates, and he explains how they met. And it takes place 9 years before the event of the show, where Red Leg Zeph ambushed the ship that Sanji was on, and I love the detail. Like the first interaction they have is Sanji being an asshole, both being assholes to each other, and he's like,
Oregano's for savages.
I love that. I love that call. I'm a sucker for like callback lines because early in the episode, he's like, "That Rumale needs more oregano. Oregano's for savages." And then in this episode, you see like Red Leg Zeph walking into shop, bloody shoes and everything, and he's like, "Ooh, Velute needs more oregano." And then you just hear a young Sanji go, and then fucking mollywopped in the face. And then he was ready to kill Sanji until he mentions that he doesn't want he's not gonna die here because he wants to find the all blue. And that was the key moment for both of them, where eventually the ship crashes from the sea and they're now stranded on a rock in the middle of nowhere. And that's and then well and what was it? Zeph manages to ration both of their food out to last as long as they can with what they got. And Sanji's upset because Zeph has more food than him, but he reasoned as, "I'm 3 times your size. I gotta eat more. Gotta eat more than you." And then he tasked Sanji to go on the other side of the rock to watch out for ships in order to flag them down for help. And they've been out there for nearly 85 days. 85 long days. And by then, all the food ran out for Sanji, and Sanji is desperate. He wants to find, and he's mad that that Zeph had way more food than he did, and he was ready to kill him if it means having food. Sanji picks up his knife and he goes over and he's ready to he sees that the bag is still full and he's ready to cut it open and get food, but he realizes there's nothing in there but treasure and loot. And then that's when he freaks out and he's like, it's been 80 days, it's been 70 days, how are you still even alive? And we see the twist. Zeph eats his own foot. Whoa! And then the reason, and he's confused why he would go this far to give him all the food and have him starve. And that's when he reveals it's because I've been looking for the all blue for my whole life, and the fact that you have the same dream, I just want to tell you that dream is real. The all blue is real, and I want to make sure that you are alive. You'll be alive to be able to find the all blue, because I know my time's over. And then that's that's where the flashback ends, where Sanji reasons it as, yeah, Red Leg Zeph had made the tough call and sacrificed his leg to save Sanji from starving to death. Ooh. And then more scenes happen where Mihawk returns to Garp empty-handed, saying that he didn't want to do the job because bless you. He wants to see what happens to Zoro and Luffy once they reach again in line, because he's interested in what they'll do. And that pisses Garp off, and you see him fucking go apeshit in his office,
Crazy. Kobe comes in, it's just in shit.
And then while Zoro's still healing, the Baratier gets attacked by not Don Krieg this time, unfortunately, but Arlong and the pirates. And we learn that they managed to tail the Straw Hats through the help of Buggy, who snuck a piece of his ear into Luffy's hat. and they threaten him. Arlong threatens Luffy to hand over the map to the Grand Line, or he'll start killing everybody. And they get into their fight, and Luffy gets clapped, and he was ready to drown. He was going to drown. He was going to kill Luffy on the spot and eat him until Nami stops him and reveals that she's actually part of Arlong's crew. And Nami leaves with Arlong, and Arlong drops Luffy into the sea, where he almost drowned if it wasn't for the help of our boy Sanji. Sexy
Taz. I'm
Sanji
sorry.
jumping in.
I'm sorry.
Sexy Taz. I'm bringing sexy
Ah,
Taz. None of the motherfucker know how to act. Okay,
that's my
so
goal right there. Holy shit. That's
so
gym motivation.
that's my gym motivation. Get as ripped and sexy and beefy as
That's
Taz
Taz.
Skyler. But yes, they managed to save him, and they decide, and Zoro wakes up after a speech from Luffy about how much he needs him, and how much he needs him for his help. And they decide that their first goal is not to go to the Grand Line, but to go pick up and save Nami. Because she's their navigator. And during that time, it's a hard scene to watch, but you see Zeph pushing Sanji out of the restaurant, like pushing him out of his life in order to help him actually go and achieve his dream of finding the All Blue. And we had this one final send off scene where Sanji thanks Zeph for everything he's done for him, for all his life, especially for saving him on that rock. And it's a lot of emotional tension between the two of them, and that's when the episode ends with their goal of trying to save Nami.
Mhm.
So, how do you feel about the episode?
Another top tier episode. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like they just get better and better and better. And I remember I was watching this one at school where I was waiting for Bender class, and I'm like, no, I can't put this down. I'm sorry. I can't keep fucking watching.
I just imagine Bree walking out. Hey, babe. Ready to go? Hold on. Shh. Watching this episode,
I'm watching Sanji's backstory.
bro. I think Sanji and Nami's backstory hit for me. But like, I'll let you continue.
When we get to Nami's, we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
But again, a T for T backstory, and I'm glad they're not changing anything crazy with the
They actually,
backstories of all these characters.
yeah, they actually kept the original version where he actually eats his own leg to survive. While
Mhm.
I think in the anime they had to censor the scene, so instead of
Yep.
him eating his own foot, he cut his own foot off in order to get himself out of a wreckage in order to save Sanji in
Yep.
that version. So I didn't know about the original version. So when I saw the review that he ate his own foot, I was like,
Yep.
yo,
And
no, Sam, I'm sorry. Why would you do that?
such a big
I
review,
I
and they
bawled my
played very well.
I
It's
cried. I cried like that.
yeah.
Like the fact he did, like, again, like the whole aspect of like they're complete strangers, but because they had the same dream, like he did whatever he could to make sure Sanji was okay.
Mhm. And also the fact that with the bags of food, he gave Sanji all the food and lied and said, "Oh, I need more food." Where it was actually just treasure.
Yeah.
And
N-
so that means Zeph went on for 85 days only off his foot.
yeah, I think based on how recent the blood looks, I think around that time when the 75-day mark happened, he just ate his own foot.
Hmm.
Like, god damn.
But it really
It
well
was
done backstory.
okay. I will say I do have that's I think that the negative of the eposode for me is it's partly because of the backstory. I'm not saying it's bad, but I
Hmm.
think it's just the the framework of the backstory is what hurts a little bit, because the original intention of the backstory was to establish kind of the origins of Baratier and and both Sanji and Zeph's philosophy of why they don't waste food. and it's because they experienced what it's like to be starving and hungry for days on end, and that led to the creation of the Baratier because he wanted to be able to help people out in sea. Zeph and Sanji wanted to create a restaurant out in sea to help people who were like stuck and didn't have anything to eat.
Mm.
And and I wish they kept the line where they talk about like the whole idea of treasure, and it's like it's fun. Like I think I remember Zeph mentioned like in the episode, like in the anime, where it's like it's funny how with even though I had all the gold, jewelry, money in the world, this all that doesn't help you when you're starving. I wish there was a restaurant. I wish there was a restaurant out in sea where it can help, where it can feed and help people like us. And then I felt like I felt like that's why I like that was partly the reason why I like the original like framework of the backstories, because it's a very personal story for both Sanji and Zeph. Well, I feel like in this version, while it still maintains the whole like the main like crux of the story and the relationship, I think having it kind of under the lens of Zeph being a leader, being a captain, it makes the personal aspect of it kind of goes down a little bit for me. It's not as personal because it's not really about Sanji and Zeph. It's more about being a captain rather than being about a story between Sanji and Zeph and their motivation.
Yeah,
So it loses a little bit of that personal aspect, and that's what kind of hurts it a little bit. Hurts it a little bit for me for Sanji's backstory.
I see.
Is that what was that something similar, or was that something different, or did you have something different regarding their backstory?
No, you hit it on the dot.
Oh,
I didn't see it as a big thing until you mentioned it. So, fake One Piece fan, but I can see where that can throw some people off. And like you said, I'm gonna transition with the whole being a captain. We really get that theming with this episode when it comes to Luffy,
mhm.
and the very next scene, again, one of my favorites. Nami reading the story to Zoro, which, by the way, the story is a nod to Skypiea, which is a future arc. Nice Easter egg.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
And yeah, and it's these it's the clash between Nami and Luffy, where Nami's like, you really gonna let him die? You could have stepped in, you could have done something. And Luffy's like, wow, why is everybody talking to me about making these decisions and all that? And it shows where both characters need to grow and what they need to push past, where it's Luffy needs to become more of a leader and more of a captain. But at the
Mhm,
same time, Luffy bites back and says, I would never get in the way of someone's dream. Never. Because he understands the importance of dreams. And when he asks mommy,
mommy.
when when he asked Nami, oh, don't you have a dream? Isn't there something you really, really want? You see, and again, Emily's acting phenomenal. You see her start to possibly tear up a little bit and just get tense in the face. Like she's trying to get these words out, but she holds it in and she tells Luffy, not everybody can follow their dreams. So the interaction ends like that. And it's more and more of this build up with Nami and what she's going through. And just, again, the payoff for Arlong Park is really good.
Mhm.
So I really enjoyed that scene.
All right. I I want to ask you regarding Arlong's characterization this time around compared to the original. I'm not sure if this is more of in hindsight due to the large lore of One Piece and how I think if I remember, like they established how fishmen in the One Piece world are oppressed because by humans,
Mm,
and
waiting for
for me,
this one.
and like I said, I didn't watch. I only watched up to Arlong part. I didn't see any of the other stuff afterwards. So I'm assuming that aspect of oppression of the fish people that came much later in the series. So I'm and the fact and I what was interesting about Arlong this time around is that he really adamantly makes that a point. Like he brings up the history of oppression and racism against the fishmen, and I'm curious regarding what you think about that characterization and Like, if you could, like, would you say that's would that be in character for him later on in the series if he appears ever again? And how do you feel about it?
Very in character, and it's again, we're gonna go into spoiler territory for this one if
Okay.
you're okay.
Yeah, no, you're good. I was just like I was like I will say like the first time I heard, I'm like I don't remember talking about the history of fishmen during the original arc. So I was kind of like I'm interested. I'm interested. I never hear him talk about this. So I just kind of like I was down for it.
So the history isn't really gone full into detail and dabbled into until later in the series around Fishman Island. Sanji wasn't there. It's it's very on the spot, um, just reference or not even an O, but just a connection to I believe would be black people in our society where oppressed race trying to fight for more rights and more respect. And a later character, Jinbei, who's one of the goats, Jinbei and Arlong were on the same crew that was full of fishmen. And the contrast between the two is like imagine Jinbei as the more Martin Luther King approach, where Arlong is the more Malcolm X approach in a way,
Oh,
where
okay.
Arlong is very, of course, as you've seen, the very, oh no, they need to serve under us. We are stronger, so they want to keep us down. And Jim May is the more through his experiences on just fishman interactions with humans, which I won't get into because it's a whole nother thing with Fishman Island, but it's an arc I really enjoy where he's the
Mhm,
very no, we must find peace and we can coincide and bring an end to this injustice together because we have shown to be able to do it in the past. And in this backstory, it's a backstory, by the way, where
mhm.
Arlong and Jinbei are shown. It kind of tears the crew apart, where Jinbei and Arlong have these conflicting ideas on how fishmen should approach this injustice against them.
Mhm.
So no, I thought it was played to the T a
Oh,
bit, and we
wow.
were given more than in the manga, which is what I liked.
I see. Okay. I'm glad. Then I enjoyed it because I thought like I never seen this characterization before. At least early version of
Mhm.
Arlong, because like I said, I only watched up to the Arlong Park arc in One Piece anime. So I never really heard him talk about fishman oppression and whatnot. So this is like I never I this is definitely like a in hindsight writing because of all the story and lore that's added later on in the series, and now they're kind of reapplying it here to keep
Mhm.
characterization consistent with the future version.
Mhm.
Okay, that's good to know though. I did not know that, so thank you for letting me know.
Of course, yeah.
And last thing regarding Luffy, I say a lot of people were like very intrigued by Luffy's characterization this episode, where he's actually vulnerable and like unsure of himself as a person, which is not something you usually see from Luffy because he always knows and is always sure of everything he does. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that regarding Luffy's vulnerability in this episode.
It showed it's a very different take, in my opinion, from the manga, because like you said, V in the manga, the anime is this character who is very sure of himself. He doesn't hesitate. He knows what he wants, and he'll do anything he can to get it. But with, for example, I'll compare the scenes with Zoro's defeat with the manga and the
Mhm.
live action where in the manga, of course, it's the I won't lose again until I'm the greatest swordsman. And Zoro's carried on the boat to be healed, and Luffy goes on smiling, yep, no problem.
We're
And
good.
doesn't really phase him after that because he knows and he's confident Zoro's going to be okay. He's strong. I trust him. But in this, it feels like in the live action, it hits Luffy a lot more. Like you said, he says, oh, I'm not hungry right now. It's kind of like reality hitting him that, oh, shoot, I could lose companions possibly. People could die under my lead. It's a lot. And
Mhm.
it feels more real. It feels more I wouldn't. I
Human.
wouldn't say it's out of Luffy's character completely because there are later moments in the show which I won't spoil because that's pretty big, where
Mhm,
Luffy has these thoughts where oh my goodness, I lost someone, I'm not fit to be a captain, yada yada yada. I let someone die,
mhm,
but I wouldn't say it deteriorated from Luffy's character. I said I feel it made him feel more human. It made him feel more
mhm.
real. That this reality shock hits him, but at the same time, he doesn't compromise his his ideals. Where he doesn't regret stopping Zoro from following his dream or going for this. So that's my take.
I see. That's good to hear because I feel kind of the same way because I was surprised that I was initially surprised by Luffy's vulnerability, but at the same time it was a welcome one because especially since this is so early in his career and it's not always
Mhm,
going to run smoothly and I feel like I feel like yeah, that's how it is. Sometimes it's not always gonna work exactly your way, and people can get hurt if you're not careful. And I like how he's aware of that too.
mhm,
It's like it kind of yeah, it brings a lot of human elements involved,
mhm.
and yeah, I say episode over like outside of that one nitpick slash negative regarding Sanji's framework for the backstory. Overall, it's a really good episode too.
Yeah, solid episode.
Very solid episode. Now we're gonna move on to episode 7. No.
Our long fight, the girl with the sawfish tattoo.
Oh God. Oh
My
God.
goodness.
Okay. So we pick up from the last episode where they decide they're gonna go find Nami and they find a way to hunt down Nami by using Buggy the Clown and his Chop Chop Fruit to basically listen and find a way to get to the park. To wherever Nami is, and we get some characterization with Nami and how she interacts with Arlong's crew, along with we get her real goal, and that is get to get 10 million berries, 1 million berry or 10 million berries. I don't remember how much it
100
was.
million berry.
100. Oh wow, 100 million berries. 100 million berries to buy back Konomi Village, and we get a backstory regarding Nami's. We get a backstory for Nami where she talks, we find out that she was the daughter of Belmere. Sorry, I'm trying to remember her name.
Belmer. You're good.
Belmere, and we learn about their dynamic, She was always kind of a thief at a young age, and she was kind of she hated being poor, poor, but Belmere tried to like reason with her, like, no, like we may not have enough money, but we have each other. That's what matters. And they had their little conflict, and we get more characterization with Belmere and how the day she found them in that battlefield when she was still a Marine, that was her like that made her want to keep living, keep on going and living so she can like see them, help them and see them grow up. And once they return the book back to the store, back to the village, it gets attacked by Arlong and his crew. And
Mm.
Arlong, they met Belmere is trying to hide both Nojiko, Nami's older sister, adopted older sister, right?
Adopted older sister. Yeah.
Yeah, adoptive
No
older
joke.
sister. Belmere tries to hide both of them, and was almost gonna get away with tricking Arlong with only paying for her ransom.
Mm.
But that's when Arlong notices that there were 3 plates on the table, and and demands the truth from Belmere, and that's when she reveals that she does have 2 daughters. And okay, so I'm tearing up thinking about it right now. But
Yeah, that shit
uh
hits.
uh because she couldn't pay for all 3 of them, she realizes that she's with the remaining money she has, she can pay for both Nochiko and Nami's survival. But that means that she's going to have to sacrifice herself to save them. And Arlong even points this out, like, you do know what you're asking for, yes? And she does. She pays for the ransom for both Nojiko and Nami, and tells them that she loves them, and that's when Arlong pulls the pistol on her and
right
kills
in
her
front of them.
right in front of them.
God.
We, God, bro, like I teared up. I teared up watching this version, but do you remember I sent you the picture of my like live reaction when that happened in the anime?
Red.
I was like,
On the face, I'm like saying the same.
if I can find it in on my phone, I'll put it up on the video later when we upload it. But like you can see me like my eyes are just bawling and tearing up everywhere. And oh, like I'm glad they did the story pretty well. Again, I have a little bit of a nitpick, but I'll get into that later. After the attack from Arlong, Nami decides she would go to Arlong and want to work with him in order to basically pay back the village. Unfortunately, when we go back to the present, um, Arlong double crosses Nami by having one of his corrupt marine members go to Nami's stash, takes it away from her in order to not be able to finish her contract. So with uh, she's stuck with Arlong again, and she's devastated. Her entire life, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the pain she went through, all the trouble she went through to get 100 million berries gone in a single instant, and all because Arlong double crossed her. And then we have a scene where she hates the tattoo that's branded on her body. She grabs a knife and starts slashing and stabbing it, like she, just like cursing his name. And then before she could do any more harm for herself, Luffy stops her. And then there's a scene where, sorry, no, okay, sorry.
This episode's so heavy right now.
It's heavy.
God.
Not Nami, still, even after everything that happened, she's still trying to push Luffy away. But realizing how hopeless all this is, she looks over to Luffy and asks him for his help. And Luffy takes off his hat, gives it to Nami, and says, "Of course I will." And then he declares that that of course I'll do it. Like, of course I'll help you. And the last shot ends with the iconic recreation of the manga
Yep.
where everyone's posed,
Squared up.
squared
The
up,
slides looking clean.
and that's the end of episode 7. Oh,
God.
I'm sorry. No, that shit hurted, man.
This episode speaks for itself.
Okay.
First,
What? Okay. How do you feel about this episode?
God. I'll start from the top where it's. And this is what I like about Luffy. I can't even start with Luffy. Fuck. I'll start with Nami's backstory because golly, that fucking. I'm tearing up just thinking about it. And it's just. Give me a sec. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good, man. I have my water to keep me hydrated.
So, I'll start talking about the differences, the main difference between the manga and the live action. Oh, wait. Oh, I thought my computer. Shut up. You can still hear me, man.
No, I can hear you. I can hear you. You're good.
So the main difference between the live action and the anime, which I thought was an interesting touch, but it does work well, is in the live action, of course, everybody thinks Nami is this traitor who, you know, um, they fucking hate her. They're like, Nami, what do you do here?
Get the hell out of our
Looking for
face.
Arlong again.
Yeah.
Even her sister. But in the manga, Nojiko knows about the deal with Arlong. Nojiko's the only one who knows about the deal with Arlong in the manga, but in the live action, Nojiko is along with everybody else in the village, and she doesn't know the true intentions of why Nami did this. So Nojiko is more supportive in the manga than in the live action. But for that change, it does. Hmm. It's kind of hard between the two takes, in my opinion, because both do work very well. So I can't really choose one over the other. It's one of those where they did well, they cooked with that one, but the backstory itself is perfect, T for T. The part where I was hoping they didn't censor the slap or Belmer just slaps the shit out of Nami,
Oh yeah.
because that is a good, crucial moment. And just who's Belmer's actress again? That was. Let me look it up.
Pull her up. Pull her up. Where, where are you, Belmere? Where are you?
Gina Galloway or Nina Galloway. I'm sorry if I'm butchering.
Amazing job.
Oh my goodness, she really sold it. It really felt like, damn, I was her child, and to have this pride from the original character that is so proud to have these children who are not even hers blood and just have this familial bond. It's God, it fucking hit when she was like, "I'm sorry, I wasn't a good mother," and
Oh, don't say that.
and they're crying, and it's oh God. She's like, "Why didn't you lie? Why didn't you lie, mom?" Because she's like, "Because you were my daughters."
And I'll never lie about
God,
that.
you deserve to live full and happy lives. God, this speaks for itself, man. Okay,
You hear her like trying to, you hear her trying to like air her like regrets, and that she always wanted to be able to buy her kids nice things,
make them
and
nice meals. God, and we get this backstory through Nojiko explaining it to the Straw Hats.
and you hear and you can see, and the actress for Nojiko, you can see how that moment still like really affects her to this day.
Hmm. But oof, on a more community, One Piece community note, a lot of people weren't happy with Nojiko's casting when it first came out for obvious reasons, because she was black.
Oh wait, there was controversy. Oh,
Yeah,
actually, I'm not surprised that there was controversy.
yeah, but I didn't care. She sold it. She definitely slayed the role.
Oh
Shit.
yeah, definitely.
And then the whole um like right after we have the scene with Zoro and Luffy on the roof, talking about, okay, well, she told you to leave.
But
Luffy,
then,
she
but
doesn't
Luffy
want to
doesn't
say
believe
anything.
that.
Luffy doesn't believe it for a second. And tying into my next point, what I love about Luffy's character is he he's the very I won't fight this battle for you unless you ask for my help. I want you to ask me for your help. You're on my crew. I want you to reach out to me because I'm your captain and I will help you when you need me. He doesn't just jump in and just start flailing in and just start attacking Arlong. No.
Or like
And
doing things for himself.
exactly, no. And he doesn't even understand the full context of the
He's like
situation. He
he's like,
doesn't,
"Do
he
you need
said,
help? Do you need
yep,
help or
that's
not?
it.
Yes or no?"
That's it. In the manga, he's like, I don't care what's happened. Do you need my help? And one minor thing that I wish they kept in the live action was after Genzo takes the money, which is the name of the Marine who takes the
Right.
money and is working for Nami in the live action, she storms off to, just through the island. But in the manga and anime, she runs back to Arlong first and is like, we had a deal. What the fuck is going on? And Arlong grabs her by the mouth and says, when did I break my deal? Really sinister. And that's when Nami breaks down and storms off.
And I kind of also, part of me, a little bit more of a nitpicky thing. I kind of wish more of the village was involved in the. I wish more of the
Yeah.
village were involved in the conflict, because the like the whole I think the reason why like the manga and anime, like the reason why she broke down so much was that the village were ready to die for her. And that, like the whole dialogue that happens in the last episode, it happens before she breaks down. So she's like, "No,
Yeah.
like you sacrificed so much," and that's what the context of they found out about
Hmm.
Nami's deal, and they're like, "No, you suffered for us, and if they're not willing to pay for our freedom, then we're gonna fight and die for it." And then
Yeah.
they're like, and you see like Nami begging like, please don't do this, please,
Yep.
you're gonna die. And then they're like, no, we're gonna go right now. And then they charge straight to Arlong Park,
Yep. And they
presumably
know.
could have been to their death.
Yeah,
And that's
they're
what caused
going in
Nami to
thinking,
break.
yep, they're going in thinking, yeah, we're probably gonna fucking die, but we don't care anymore. We've been oppressed long enough.
And and they hurt you, and
Yep, we're
we're gonna put
done.
an end to this.
And then this, with the money being taken and possibly everything she's been fighting for her whole life is going to be gone in an instant. It's just the rage with the knife. And like I said, Emily fucking killed it with the emotion of Nami of just going Arlong, Arlong, Arlong. It felt like every stab had me winching, like
And then
and
the interesting thing was, from I remember there's a video where they were talking about that scene, and Emily was really nervous about doing this because she wanted to do this scene justice so much. And
and she
Inyaki
sure
and
fucking
Yak
did.
and the great she said like Inyaki gave her so much to work
Yeah,
with emotionally
yeah.
that like it came so easy to her when the scene
Mhm.
came.
And that's and another thing I'll point out with just the cast themselves and their chemistry. I love seeing like on the Instagram or on the actors and actresses posts where they're interacting with each other outside of the show and they're it and having fun and building this chemistry, and it translates so well into the show where you can see them building off each other. And just back to the show, just the blank serious stare from Luffy that we've never seen from Minaki before, just this intensity. And what
Hmm.
I mentioned before with, okay, will he be able to play off these serious moments? No, he fucking sold it. It felt like the, okay, it's time to stand on business, Luffy. And he stands up. He's just, do you need my help? And just, God, this is one of my favorite moments in the manga because reading, watching.
What's up? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you there?
Did you get any of that?
I don't think so. You went quiet for a little bit, so that's why I needed to double check you were there.
Okay, where did I leave off?
You were talking about like the moment like the moment of Luffy, the seriousness of Luffy in
Yeah.
that scene.
Okay, sorry. But just the seriousness of Luffy in that moment, I was worried. Telling you before, I was like, will he be able to do these moments well? And he did them justice. Like, he commanded the scene in that moment when he said, do you want me to help you? Yes or no? Actually, did he even say anything in this one? I think he just stood there.
No, he was very stoic. I think is mainly Emily talking, and then he's like like I told you get the hell out of here. You did. Like
Yeah,
this had nothing to do with you.
I
I
know.
know. And then that's when she's like, help me, and he's like, of course I
And,
will.
and I was saying,
that
when I read the manga, when I watch the anime, when I watch the specials, it's every time the scene just makes me tear up and cry because it's the hat where it's so significant to Luffy as a character. He tells Nami that is his pride and joy. So to put that on her head and to trust her with that shows just how much she cares for Nami and how much she trusts Nami and says, leave it to me. I got you. And side note, only two straw hats have worn Luffy's hat, Nami
mm.
and Usopp. Mm. God, this is
uh,
such a good moment when he's like, of course we will. Then the cool badass pose with all the straw hats. I'm like, let's go.
okay. Sanji smoking, Usopp sitting in a crossy position, and then you have Zoro sitting cross-legged with the sword with Wado Ichimonji resting on his shoulder.
Hmm.
Literally ripped from the manga pose.
Really emotional episode and a really well done episode.
God, that episode is probably definitively the best one.
Hmm.
All right, now, last but not least,
Here we
episode
go.
8. The scene starts immediately after the last episode where they rush towards the village after during the aftermath where Arlong and his crew nearly burned it down to the ground. And that's when the villagers finally learned about Nami's deal, and they were ready to go over there and fight for their freedom or die trying like before.
Mhm.
And but this time they managed to talk them down, and they said, and Luffy said, "Leave it to us. We'll take care of them." And then that's when the battle begins, where only five of them storming straight into Arlong's castle,
Yep.
ready to brawl, and not both Luffy and Nami go straight to the map room because they know that's where Arlong is, probably gathering all the details. And then that just leaves Usopp, Zoro, and Sanji to fight the fishman army. And you
Mhm.
see freaking Zoro and Sanji just kicking ass and like like slicing people up. And then you have Usopp, who's dealing with one of the commanders and managed to run away and separate him away from the group. And then they have their moment where you have the fun banter between Zoro and Sanji trying to one up each other in the fight. And he's like, bro, he's like, hey, I had that. Well, if you had that, I wouldn't have to save your butt, didn't I? Like, you didn't need to save my butt. And then you have Buggy, who is still hanging around with them. He finally gets his body back and fucking ditches everyone and leaves. And then while that happens, you have Usopp, bless you, Usopp fighting the one of the main Commander Fishmen, using with the power of pretending to be dead and using explosives. Special attack, shooting star. Boom! Fucking kill. He manages to kill one of the fishmen, the great
Doggy
Captain
Usopp,
Usopp,
motherfucker.
and he manages to kill him, but no one sees it happen. So hopefully they believe him. And then we both have both Sanji and Zoro fighting the last commander, where he's like, I forgot his name, but he's like the martial arts one. And then you have a badass moment where Sanji fights for Nami and fucking uses his iconic move, the Muton shot.
Tone
Boom,
shot.
boom, and then they have, I like the little dialogue exchange where Zoro's like, Muton shot. All great fighters like to call out their finishing moves. You finish just fine. And then and now you have the final battle. It is between Arlong and Luffy, and they Luffy has a lot of personal beef this time. A lot of personal beef in this battle, and what triggered Luffy was like when Arlong said, "Could you have used Nami so effectively as I did?" And that's when he's like, like Nami's not not. I like I will never use Nami. Nami is our friend. She's not a tool. And then they had their brawl, and surprise, I think this is probably Inyaki's best fight in the series. I think that's only because both men are both or fishman and human. Both Luffy and Arlong are very like brutish in their fighting styles. So they do a lot of heavy and stiff swings. So I think it kind of works together surprisingly in their favor. And then um same thing happens like the original. He realizes that, oh, if I can't beat you, I'll just destroy everything you build. And then the map room starts getting torn apart. And then he shouts his new final move, gobble gobble. Boom, 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 boom. The entire tower collapses, and Arlong is defeated. And the day and the team celebrates in Cocoa Village, and their celebration is interrupted by Garp and his Marines, and Garp is ready to.
Before
Oh, yes.
before we get to that, I like to talk about just the Arlong Park fight itself, because the whole Garp section is gonna be its own thing.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk. Let's split it up. It basically feels like two different episodes, honestly.
Yeah, but major differences between manga, anime, and the live action is
No Squid Man.
no Squid Man, no Hachi, and I was kind of hoping he'd be in because Zoro has some good interactions in this arc.
Hmm.
Where if they're gonna go on later, I wonder how they're gonna do Hachi because Hachi does reappear later in the series, but that's
Yeah,
like pretty far, so I'm not sure if they'll make it there. But
I think part of it was due to like how to animate if they're gonna
yeah,
do it practically, how they animate the arms and if they were going to CGI it, it's gonna be really expensive to produce.
Yeah. But
So I get why they had to do. I get why they had to do that, but part of it kind of sucks.
I was at least hoping they kept the scene where Zoro actually takes on Arlong, and
Oh yeah,
Arlong, due to Zoro's injuries, he's not doing the best, and Arlong holds him up, takes off the bandages, and just sees the gash Mihawk left as he's bleeding out still.
yeah.
And he's still fighting on, and even Arlong gets shook. And I like that little detail, but unfortunately wasn't in here. But
I
instead,
think
it's
part of it,
so
yeah, it's just kind of like a due to time constraint situation. They want to focus on the main elements that is Zoro, not Zoro, Luffy versus Arlong for this one.
yeah.
Granted, I think like in the original arc when they had to artificially like stretch the fight out by having Luffy get sent all the way out into the sea and almost drown, and they had to go down under the water and pull his head up to
Mhm.
breathe. I'm glad they cut that because I feel like that's just
Yeah.
too much fluff.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyways, I'll let you continue. Sorry.
But no, I enjoyed the fight scenes. Usopp came in clutch. Really
Fine.
funny.
Finally, yeah.
Motherfucker burned to a crisp. Where
Damn, I could
the
go for
main
some
difference
fish. I
from
can go for some fish right now.
fish fillet,
Fish
but
food.
the main difference for me between the anime manga and the live action is in the live action, these motherfuckers are dead.
Mm-hmm.
In
Oh,
the anime and manga, it's kind of just like ambiguous their status.
like we see like blood and like dead. You see blood come out of every. Well, at least for Zoro, he actually like killed them. I don't know about Sanji because he just kicked them. Unless it's.
Kicks
Do you think that's gonna? Do you think those kicks would kill the fishmen or?
if they're set on fire, and if he cooks them like Usopp, then yes. But
But yeah, no, definitely. Like this time around, like then most of them are probably dead.
yeah, definitely. But no, I enjoyed the fight scenes
Mhm.
and um, Buggy, of course, being silly. I
I'm
like
a
how he just
goober.
did
Fuck you. I'm
the
out.
first chance he gets.
He's like, see you guys later. Hey.
Mutant. But
Yeah.
the fight with Luffy and Arlong. First, the scene where Nami comes roaming back out. Wait, no, I'm going too fast. Again, the scene where he's like, "Can you use her better than me?" And he just gets irritated, like she's not something to be used. And I like how they did the scene too, where he crushes Arlong's weapons with his bare fucking hands. Like, yeah, I'm fucking pissed.
And you see like blood, like there's like blood coming out of his hands, so he's getting cut,
Mhm.
but he just doesn't give a shit and just
Doesn't care.
breaks it.
Hmm. And I like all the moves he was bringing out, like the Gatling. I love Gatling. That's my favorite movie. He
Come
pulls
on, come
out, and I was
on,
just geeking out.
God to it.
And when the place is falling down and Nami runs out, and Sonya's like, Nami! She runs right past.
Like you guys are okay, and then you just see his like disappointment in his face.
Cool. But pretty different fight from what we got in the anime manga, of course, due to the time. Because for the first section of the fight, they're outside Arlong Park. Arlong's fighting him barehanded, only with his shark teeth. And
Mm-hmm.
it's once they go inside that he brings out the sword or the giant, whatever it's fucking called, and starts
Hacksaw, I
attacking.
guess, like a big hacksaw sword.
You could say hacksaw, but I kind of wish they kept how the fight ended in the OG because it just fuels the adrenaline more. Where Arlong goes for this spinning bite attack on Luffy, and it actually lands on Luffy and like gnashes him good in the leg. But Luffy's so bent on ending this fucking fight that he just goes through with the axe anyways, and just stomps Arlong to the ground. And in
Boom,
the live action,
boom, boom.
it just looks like Arlong just ran right into the foot.
I okay. Okay, I don't want to like there was a line where it's like like where he's like you're not gonna bring down Arlong Park. The way he says it is kind of funny a little bit. He's like you will not bring down Arlong Park. Sorry, that just like lives in my head randomly for some reason.
They
Not
just
live
straight
down
up-
Arlong Park. Sorry,
No,
continue.
no, you're good. But just the sequence with the whole building collapsing, really well done. And Luffy comes out, emerges victorious. he's like, "You're part of my crew."
Mhm.
It's so just geeky. It's just like, again, it feels like I'm watching One Piece for the first time again, and it's really well done.
And it's so heartwarming.
Mhm. So
Yeah, that was a pretty good. I mean, overall, it's a pretty good fight, and and for me, but like most of the meat for me was looking at looking at Sanji's and Zoro's fighting because like
yeah,
those are stuff I like, and it has a very like it has a mix of like practical fighting, but also a little bit of wire work for some scenes, which I don't
mhm,
mind because they don't use it like overly and like
thank goodness.
over excessive amount. So I'm glad they didn't.
Which kind of
And
worries me if they do get even like further into the series because shit
because it
gets
gets
insane.
crazier, fucking like god swords and shit. Like
Mhm.
we'll see how that goes, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
But yeah. So kind of continuing on, they get approached by Garp and the Marines, and Garp was
Mhm.
ready to arrest the Straw Hat crew, but both uh both Helmeppo and Kobe decide that they don't want to be that they're against this and they don't want to arrest Luffy, and he's like not that it mattered to him because Garp still goes in to fight Luffy, and they have their brawl, and it is completely one-sided.
Bro is getting clocked.
I don't know if it's like there's like a detail like you see like a dolly zoom effect for Garp where you see and you hear like a piercing noise when he like stares at him and he like dodges the punch out of the way and then winds up his fist and punts him right in the chest and gets sent back. And I still love the part where like he's gonna do the gum rocket and then he's launching himself and then all Garp does is just fucking
Move.
extend his arm out and clotheslines him. And then yeah, and then the battle was it was more of outside of the physical battle, it was more of a battle of will and like even after physically beating him down, Luffy doesn't care because he's not gonna give up on his dream and he wants to become the king of the pirates. And then and while Luffy's laughing, you hear the laughter of the last laugh of Gold Roger overlaying over Luffy, and that's when Garp realizes he's ready. And then that's when he reveals that the entire time he's been testing
Yeah.
Luffy if he's really committed to being a pirate. And then after the test, he has the rest of the Marines go round up all of Arlong's remaining crew, and you have the traitor Nemu. Nemu, what is that? The little mouse dude, the
Genzo,
mouse
Nemu, I don't fucking know.
Genzu Nemu, whatever it is, get fucking clopped by Nami, and then the series ends with Kobe giving Luffy his first official bounty of 30 million berries, the highest in the East Blue.
Oh,
And
side
then
note, sorry, OG One Piece fans, I was wrong. Genzo is the name of the man who runs the village in Kokoyashi. It was Nemu. I'm sorry, I'm a fake fan.
you're a fake fan. This what do I have you here for?
He's fake. All right, I'll leave.
You're fake. You're fake. It was a misinput. It was a misinput. You calm the fuck down. It was a misinput. God, this community is so toxic these days. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so the series ends with Luffy getting his first official bounty of 30 million berries, and you see everyone's reaction throughout the show that we've seen. You see Makino, I think her name is
Makino.
Makino, and her reaction, and then you see Kaya's reaction, and then you see Red Leg Zeph put his bounty on his board, and then you see Buggy and his like iconic theme come back as he's like staring down the
And we
poster. He's like,
see
I'm gonna
Alvida too, and this sparks which I like
the
the name that it
alliance.
sparked their alliance.
And then last but not least, you have Shanks, who's chilling on an island as Mihawk approaches them, and I still love this scene where Mihawk is like, I'm not here to fight you, not when you're half the man you used to be. And he's like, hey, I can still take you, especially with one hand behind my back.
Behind my
And
back.
they all start laughing, and because he's like flopping his missing arm. But then that's when Mihawk reveals the poster, and everyone is like elated. What's the, I don't know. Like they were they were extremely happy to see Luffy finally being an official pirate, and they're
Mhm.
like, "Bring us!" Zoro!" And then they kind of like have Mihawk come in, like, "Hey, join us, have a drink. This is a special occasion." And we see
I
and
suppose the drink wouldn't hurt.
I suppose a drink wouldn't hurt. And then we have one last scene with the Straw Hats where they look at the bounty. They know that now they have a bigger target on their back more than ever, but it doesn't matter because they're gonna still fight to go to the Grand Line. And and while they get ready to send off, they have a cast off ceremony where they declare their dreams. Sanji, I'm gonna find the All Blue. I'm gonna become king of the pirates. I'm gonna become the world's greatest swordsman. I want to draw the map of the world. And I want to become the brave warrior of the sea. Yahoo! And then you hear the music, the rendition of We Are in the background. I'm like, yeah. And then that's the end of One Piece. But not without a
Oh, is it?
post-credit scene where we see a familiar a figure smoking a cigar, burning Luffy's wanted poster for any fans of Low Town. Yeah, something we'll look
You
forward
already
to.
know who that is. Make sure I can't eat your ice cream.
Okay, so now that we talked about Arlong's fight, how do you feel about Garp's fight and the revelation? I want to get your input on that. I You sound so uncertain.
I don't know. It's.
Also,
I mean, I saw this coming, and I knew it was going to be like a test of, oh, let's see if he's ready to be a pirate, because that doesn't really come until later, where Garp tests him. Like I said, Emmy's lobby, and then there's Marineford for sure when spoiler, Luffy is trying to save a certain someone, and Garp stands in his way, and Garp tests him, saying, "Do you really want to do this? Once you punch, kind of testing, you got to put. Are you really going to be a pirate, or are you going to let family bonds get in the way?" And Luffy actually
ooh.
goes into Dexam, and Garp takes the hit. 'Cause he's like, okay, it's good to know that he's actually going for it. Sends Garp flying. And I love that moment because everybody thinks, oh my goodness, Luffy just decked the shit out of one of the strongest Marines in. And it's actually just like a little family thing. But seeing this moment play out so early, I mean, it works. And like the part where he's laughing like Goldie Roger, and Garp sees that and just starts maniacally laughing after the fucking beatdown. It's good. And then Kobe stepping in and saying, I'm not going to take orders. No, it shows how much Kobe has grown as well.
Hmm. Oh, I
So,
forgot to even mention, like, they had a scene dedicated to like Kobe and Helmeppo ready to take their punishment for like going against direct orders, and
mhm,
then he even says like being a marine is not about following orders, it's about following your code, and you
yep.
followed it, so good work. And he's like, oh, so we're
Mhm.
not getting punished? I didn't say that. I People say my training is the worst kind of punishment. And now we can officially start the training arc where they fucking get beat up constantly.
Yeah.
I remember I saw clips about that, so I was like, this is happening. And then it's kind of nice because you see like Kobe's like, I want to train to be able to like stand up and go up on the same level of Luffy, and then you
Yeah.
have Helmeppo's like, I want to become a great swordsman that there in order to show that Zoro isn't the only one that's amazing good with the sword. And I'm like,
Yeah. So it's
I,
cool. It sets up this, dynamic and this rivalry that we
between
hope
both
to see. Yeah.
the Marine group and the Straw Hat crew. So I like
Yes.
that.
Hmm.
Oh man, it, I will say, okay, so but back on the subject of the reveal of Garp testing Luffy, I feel like I think in hindsight, if you want to think of it in hindsight, since the test happened so far later into into the series where Luffy already had all these trials and tribulations, it feels kind of weird for Garp to test him this late
Yeah.
in the manga. So that's why I feel like personally it makes more sense to have him question it early on before the real test starts. because this is the start of his journey, and it would make more sense for Garp to be more like wary about if Luffy is prepared, because this is still the start of his journey. But I think that's why they made that change. And I don't personally mind it, but I understand why, like, that it needs to happen later in terms of context and adding emphasis to later to the plot in that specific art you're referring to.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, when you put it like that, I can totally see how that works. Looking back, it wouldn't really have made sense to. Well, for Marineford, I can see why he was tested in that way. I won't spoil,
mhm.
but for Ennie's lobby, for him to test him or try to capture him, yada yada yada, after the fact that Luffy just declared war on the world government, raided a government building, and the building island is no longer standing, literally. I think that's test enough to show that he's ready.
Yeah, and he's done a lot already.
Mhm.
So it just feels weird that they have him test now, at least in the manga adaptation, so late in the series, during its time, compared to like having it far earlier. So it makes more sense because he's still not hasn't really seen what the world can be,
Yeah.
how crazy the world can be. Alrighty, but yeah, the end. Fucking love that. I love the ending so much. All right, but that's besides that. We're gonna wrap up our thoughts. I wonder how we feel about the entire series of Netflix One Piece, man. I wonder what the rating is.
Excuse me. It's honestly
What?
trash.
Oh yeah, trash. So trash.
It's honestly
Don't
trash.
watch it.
It's honestly trash.
Obviously,
It's so
I'm just kidding.
fucking
I'm just kidding.
trash.
I'm
If you
I'm
are a
just kidding.
fucking moron, that shit was peak.
I'm like, please change your answer right now, because I feel like some
No, I
people
can't.
might actually take our word.
No, I
No,
don't care. Shoot. This was peak.
this is definitely peak fiction right here.
Yes, and it is the best. There's not really a lot of big competition, but it's the best live action adaptation Netflix has put out in regards to anime.
And
It's
the
true to
and I'm
nature. It's
so
true to the adventure.
yeah.
It's everything One Piece fans can love, and it's easy for new fans to keep up and be interested.
Honestly, yeah. I think if I'm gonna be honest, I'm probably just gonna wait for the Netflix live action adaptation to watch and catch up the material.
Mhm.
Like, 'cause 1,000 episodes for me, it's just takes it's really long for me, especially since I have other shows I want to get. I'm still
Yep.
into as well. So
Side
I
note to One
think
Piece fans: do not annoy people who don't want to sit through 1,000 episodes. Thank you very much. It's not for everybody.
yeah. I mean I'm not gonna deny it's a great show, but like putting in 1,000 episodes is a little it's kind of hard for me. So I think
Yeah.
now with the Netflix adaptation and the eventual reanimation of One Piece romance Dawn arc coming up in the future, I might just
Mhm.
like rewatch I might rewatch it slash like wait for the Netflix adaptation to keep up with the material, because that's a lot easier for me.
Mhm.
And I'm so glad it was as successful as it was, because One Piece as a property is
Recommendation.
so important, and
Mhm.
it needs, and now it's opening up to an even wider mainstream audience. Now, and like more people are starting to like watch it, and more people are getting into One Piece, and more One Piece mean more anime fans mean more
Mhm.
people watching anime
Yep.
and supporting the industry, and that's great.
Mhm.
And the I'll be honest, the future for Netflix One Piece right now currently is pretty bright.
Yep. It is
And
bright.
I really hope it the success it maintains its quality, and continues to be successful in the future.
Mhm.
Any last words on the future of Netflix One Piece, or just One Piece as a property?
The future is looking very bright. This year as a whole has been the year of One Piece, in my opinion. We've had the live action popping off. We've had this reveal of which studio remaking Romance Dawn, which is amazing. And
Year
we
5.
just finished up. Yes, not even just Gear 5, just Wano as a whole was such an adventure where this has been this is the climax of something that is built up since Fishman Island, which is like beginning of the new world, which is years. Where's the plot with Doflamingo and how that ties to Kaido and the fruits and just the bonds between all the crew and Law and all these connections. And what I love about One Piece is that it shows what's going on in the world, not just with the crew, Luffy and the Straw Hats. It shows everything that's going on with the Marines, with other pirates, with other characters, and it just ties it all together in a neat bow and connects all together. And I cannot wait for what's going to come with this last saga, because Oda has said this is the last saga for One Piece. So I estimate it will end in about 6, 8.
Finally, we'll learn what the One Piece is. The One Piece is real. Can we get much higher? Sorry, we're good.
It's so refreshing to see not only just One Piece, but anime as a whole being more accepted by the populace. Where I remember I was that fucking weird kid, Naruto running down the hallways in high school where no one was fucking with that weeb shit because it was weird and corny. And now everybody watches anime or has at least watched one anime. And One Piece is definitely a big part of that. And with the live action, I hope it brings in more people and shows them just how amazing this show is. And like I said, please don't be that person who's like, oh, One Piece is peak. Oh, it's better than any other show. Can he be Goku? I can't stand people like that.
But can he be Goku?
But can he be Goku? No. But just enjoy the show. Enjoy the adventure. And, connect with people who like the show as well. And if you're on edge about watching the show, I recommend start with the live action. That is the perfect way to start.
Honestly, yeah, I think it's a good way to start now, honestly. Condensing 50 episodes into 8 episodes.
They did very well with that. And my final note, please, season 2 cast Jamie Lee Curtis as Dr. Kureha.
Yeah!
Go, please.
I don't have a note for myself either, but I'm just gonna do this. Achikeru yume wo gekiyatsu de sagashimono sagashiki yuku no sa. One Piece. Dun, dun. Thank you for listening to the entire podcast stream. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Have a good morning, evening, or good morning, afternoon, or evening.
Thank you all. Peace out.
Peace out.